welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you're doing well and your week is off to a great start. This is the long anticipated lunar eclipse in Taurus video. Really excited to break this down for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Please share this video. Give me a thumbs up or drop me a comment below to let me know how you're feeling with these energies. My goodness, I feel like it is like graduation day. That's kind of like what it feels like for me, seeing the completion of the series of these eclipses compared to the solar eclipse that we just had in Libra, which is almost starting a brand new chapter. This is about kind of wrapping something up. So if you guys need more info on this, if you're wondering more about this, you can also check out my website. I have a webinar that I did on the fall 2023 eclipses. It is for sale if you want to pick that up. I will put the link in the description or somewhere in the comments so that way you guys can check that out if you would like a more in-depth look. Equally, you can reach out to me if you would like to book an appointment with me or if you would like to get a detailed email audio report regarding this eclipse. All right, so holy cow, right? Pun intended. I'm imagining a lot of us are going to be saying this with this eclipse that's going to be taking place. Like I said, I feel like it's like graduation day because we're completing this cycle. So especially if you're somebody who has a number of planets in the Scorpio or Taurus axis, you are probably glad to be kissing these eclipses goodbye. I think I could say that for all of the fixed signs, so also Leo and Aquarius, you're a part of that group as well. We are now passing the torch fully to Aries and Libra after a long 18-month of eclipses in these two signs. So the process is completing because we will not see another eclipse in the sign of Taurus or Scorpio for about 9 years. Just looking at this eclipse in general, I was like processing a lot and looking back at just how much growth has taken place since fall of 2021, how many things have taken place since fall of 2021. It seems like a decade ago. And full moons happen monthly, so it's nothing unusual that we're having a full moon, but it is unusual that this is the last eclipse in a series of eclipses. And just the fact that it's an eclipse in general. We only have eclipses every 6 months and they are the bringers of change. So the thing to take into consideration with this particular eclipse, and I would say this with any full moon, but with this eclipse in particular, is that oppositions are built into this eclipse. You're going to see a lot of them that are going to be taking place. That is going to show us some relational issues or aspects that involve other people outside of ourselves. Yeah, so it's built into this particular eclipse, which it is anyway with full moons, because when we have the full moon every 28 days, we see the sun and the moon in opposition, bringing something to a climax. So these eclipses have been taking place since 2021. I think about what was going on in 2020, 2021, as we saw the Saturn ingress, and just since we've had these eclipses, there was another piece of the story that was also kind of factored into this, and this is where we saw Saturn go through Aquarius, likely making squares or aspects to these eclipses that we saw in the Taurus Scorpio axis. So it kind of represented where society was coming to a breaking point or to its limits or its kind of borders, revolving around Taurus and Scorpio related topics. So budgeting issues, values, resources, debt, spending, life, death. And also Uranus has been in Taurus as well. We've seen that the last couple of years. If anything, I think my takeaway from the Uranus and Taurus transits, which has been baked into the eclipses, we saw a couple eclipses exactly conjunct Uranus, exactly in opposition to Uranus. It taught us that connecting to nature is the thing to do. That it provides, it grounds us. It's really about the bare necessities, getting back down to basics, right? Cue the Jungle Book song with the big blue bear. But I think that's really what these eclipses have been about, at least for me. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. And so much of what we see with the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, because Taurus has connections to Venus and it's about growth and life and simplicity, Scorpio can be about fear, right? It can be about intensity. It can be about grief or trauma or releasing or letting go. And we see this dynamic of the polarity between like Venus energies and Scorpio, Mars kind of related energies. And what these eclipses have taught me is that sometimes lack can show our true values, right? Lack of something, lack of resources, lack of support, lack of self-confidence, healthy self-esteem, and where we really can get back down to our true values and our needs. And so for me, I found myself the last 18 months just reminding myself, like, simply simplify. That has basically been my prayer when it comes to things, money, resources. That's what I keep trying to remind myself. And so I think that as we're seeing this come to a close, if we are really in alignment with our values, with our truth, with our inner knowing, then likely this can be an eclipse that can be very beneficial for us because it does have conjunctions to Jupiter. It's a wide conjunction, but it's there. Now, like I said about this friction, because there is just a hefty amount of friction that's kind of baked into this eclipse, take into consideration that other people are going to play a role in this eclipse. So you have to look at which house Taurus is in. I'll take you guys through the 12 signs at the end of this video, so hold tight. But we've got a number of heavy-hitting planets in direct opposition to the eclipse, and you're going to feel that play out for about a 48-hour period. And so you guys want to be thinking about, with this friction, as we come to this completion eclipse, what have you overcome, right? What have you been able to overcome? What are you wrapping up? What are you finishing? What have the last 18 months looked like for you? As I was looking at it, I was kind of like overwhelmed, being like, wow, all these things took place and there were so many things that ended. And I think that's kind of like the Scorpio side of me. That's like, I moved and this happened and that happened and like that fell apart. But then I tried to kind of think about, but what did I gain from that, right? If there was a loss, or if there was cutting something or someone loose or letting go, even though it could have been scary, or even though it could have been something that was overwhelming or caused a sense of fear or issues of vulnerability, the Taurus eclipses were like, okay, it doesn't have to be complicated. Let's just make it easy, right? How can we be the most comfortable throughout this change? And how can this change manifest in a way that can be beautiful or can be really abundant or really natural and really pleasant, right? These are all these kind of Taurus themes. And so what I like about this eclipse is that although there's pros and cons, Venus obviously is the ruler. This is the second eclipse that we're seeing now this month that has a ruler that is technically moving through a sign where it's not comfortable. So Venus is moving through Virgo, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But we know that when Venus is in Virgo, we are tending to things that we love. We are helping heal something or tend to someone or care for something. We're wanting to clean it up, perfect it. We're also wanting to be of service. So unlike the last eclipse that we saw in Libra, where we saw a pretty close Saturn-Venus opposition, with this eclipse, at least we're seeing Venus coming in and harmonizing with Jupiter and Uranus, so it has more support. Equally, I like the fact that Jupiter is in conjunction, and I can see a number of activation points that we're going to be getting from this eclipse clear into the beginning of 2024. Now, Jupiter has been in Taurus for months now. We're going to see Jupiter continue to stay in this sign until spring of 2024 before it makes its way into Gemini. What I like about Jupiter in this sign is that Jupiter is patient. Taurus is known for its patience, right? It's slow and steady kind of wins the race. So having Jupiter, which is like such an overly abundant, expansive, adventurous kind of planet in the fixed earth sign of Taurus, it is working hard, building its resources, working on its self-esteem. And it's a lot of having to believe in yourself. Jupiter has associations with beliefs and prayer as well. So it's a very spiritual planet. So Jupiter here, wise, abundant. And I also see this as the conjunction with the eclipse is protecting. Okay, so something is being protected in some way. in the background, because this is all ruled by Venus, so Venus is the dispositor of the moon and Jupiter and Uranus, and we have Venus that is technically moving through a sign that it's not, comfortable. The trine makes me feel like there may be some people who step up and champion certain issues that are going on around the eclipses, and they're protecting something. They're protecting the earth, they're protecting valuable information, resources, protecting rights, protecting people's bank accounts. So essentially this is like a really amazing eclipse to be doing some kind of abundance work. Just keep in mind that Taurus is about feeling something physically, like believing it, right? Jupiter is belief, and Taurus is going to be about feeling it. So this is about really trusting the process of what unfolds during this eclipse and really into the beginning of 2024. As many of you guys know, eclipses take time to unfold over time. Although, unlike a new moon solar eclipse that takes months to unfold, this one I think is going to be a little bit more timely, and I think it's also going to be something that's going to be definitely very physically obvious. So if you're wanting to set intentions to bring in more resources, if you're wanting to work on self-esteem, if you are wanting to just connect better with the planet, these are all things that you can be doing while we're coming into this particular eclipse. Now, something else that's kind of cool, and I think this is just so appropriate connecting to like Taurus and patience, is that we are having Jupiter retrograde at the time of the eclipse. And so you might be like, well, why is that important? Well, it's important because it means that something is yet to be revealed. And when I look at the astrology, Jupiter hit 5 degrees in June of 2023, just a couple months ago, just after we had a Mercury retrograde in Taurus as well, around the similar degrees. So from basically mid-December of this year, 2023, until about mid-January 2024, we're going to see a month where Jupiter is going to be retrograde. It's going to hit 5 degrees of Taurus, reactivate the eclipse, go direct at the end of December of 2023, and then sit at 5 degrees of Taurus for around about 2 weeks into January. So my point is that the blessings may feel a little delayed. There may be a sense of getting this feeling or this intuitive knowing that's like, oh, this situation is about to unfold, or I'm about to receive this thing, or I'm about to kind of expand this whatever. You have to look at what house Taurus is in your chart. But this is a degree that we're very familiar with after seeing it hit there this summer and get activated with that Mercury retrograde that we had in Taurus. So it's taking time to receive the blessings, right? And some of you guys might be like, I'm tired. It's been 2 years of this, but trust me, this is kind of worth waiting for. And the other thing to take into consideration is that, the moon and Jupiter and Uranus are all in the same sign. Now, I love an exalted moon in Taurus. I will take a lunar eclipse in Taurus over a lunar eclipse in Scorpio any day. I feel like it does add a little bit more of really significant Venusian energies to the eclipse. The moon is going to be in conjunction to Jupiter, which represents big emotions, big feelings, but also the moon is about the collective, right? So collectively, what is everybody saying? They're saying, okay, how can we have more? And that could be a good or a bad thing, right? We could definitely see some overindulging, overspending, overly optimistic, and we might see certain things really surge, whether that's like the stock market or prices of food and resources. And it can be to a point where it pops. And I'm anticipating that the pop may not come until after the new year. And we'll get into that. I want to show you guys a couple charts that I kind of like intuitively was like, let me dig around in here, and there ended up being some clues for sure. And from my perspective, the moon Jupiter can represent where everybody's really focusing on a state of indulgence and maybe really craving romance and sweets and optimism when it comes to the future of our financial lives, because Taurus is a financial sign. But we're going to also see that Uranus is still in the mix, right? And so I look at the lunar eclipse conjunct Jupiter as everybody in October, indulging and celebrating and having a good time and being really optimistic about money and like hearing a lot of really positive things about the markets. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but it's going to pop in the new year. And then we're also going to see Jupiter, which is essentially from the new year on, on a one-way track speeding towards the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in the spring of 2024. So in a way, I genuinely feel like the last 2.5 years or so has been a bit of like a dress rehearsal, and whether that's the eclipses in Scorpio and, Taurus kind of totally shaking up the financial systems. We've seen crypto exchange issues. We've seen collapses of banks. We've seen insane inflation and some really crazy interest rates. And so I think that this is the final effect of what we've been doing financially and within our own physical lives and with our resources over the last 2 years or so. And that conjunction, when it happens in the spring, it's when Jupiter and Uranus are going to be at 21 degrees. So I do think that this is also a lot revolving around rules and responsibilities, because, Jupiter can deal with like the court system and what decisions are made in regards to rules, regulations, and rights. A lot of people would think that that's Saturn, but it's not. And what's interesting is that we do see a slight sextile to Saturn at the time of the eclipse. So it can also be saying like, okay, there's certain rules being put in place right now, or there's certain things that are expanding with the support and the backing of what's going on with, those in charge. Saturn can represent governments. It can represent leaders. It can be people who are, managing things, obviously governing things, but behind the scenes. So it would seem to me that part of what's coming through with this is that you also have to look at where Pisces is in your chart, that there is some structure, or there is some karma, or there is some situation that you're reevaluating and kind of working on basically throughout this eclipse, that's helping set the stage for what ultimately you're going to receive or what you're going to build. And, we'll see Jupiter and Saturn kind of come into a slight sextile at the end of this year as well. So that's also kind of doubling down. But this also means, in my mind, that the visualization, the meditation, the spiritual connection, the work that you're doing, the sacrifices you're making, they're going to pay off. That's very Saturn and Pisces. The flip side could also mean where there could be self-sabotaging, right? We think of Pisces in the 12th house energies as, where we are unwilling to get out of our own way, or we're too fearful of making a change, or there is some habit or addiction or isolation issues that can kind of come up that inhibit us, right, from being able to kind of get out of some of these nasty habits. So I could look at this and I could go, also, this is going to make us acutely aware of our tendencies when it comes to spending or eating or our self-esteem, and how it can kind of be highlighting that we need to be paying attention to some of these patterns or some of these habits. We might see physical manifestations, because it's in an earth sign, of some of these issues that are trying to get balanced out. Now, it may not be financial for everybody. This is just more general because this is in financial signs, but we will see collectively that this is definitely going to be playing out. The second house is what we possess, what we own, and then the 8th house is other people's money and what we owe. So we're going to see some challenges, I think, revolving around borrowing and lending that's going to come up, and how much money you're going to pay in interest, second house Jupiter eclipse, as opposed to what it's going to cost to borrow that money. So I think we're going to see that kind of come up quite a bit. Like I said, in regards to the major opposition that's being built into this eclipse, something to take into consideration is that we have some heavy hitters in Scorpio. It's interesting to see the moon in its exaltation, and to also see, Mars moving through one of its ruling signs. Both are equally incredibly strong, and for very different reasons. Where I could see the moon really wanting pleasure and wanting love and wanting to nurture something, wanting life in some way, or growth or comfort. I see Mars in Scorpio as wanting to push and wanting to fight and wanting to dig deep or investigate, especially with Mercury there. So we're going to see a lot of polarizing energies also at the time of this eclipse. Gotta love Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio. If you guys caught my most recent video in this last week, I talk about how I called it them's fighting words for the astro weather. I'm like, Got to watch your mouths with Mercury, Mars, and the Sun in conjunction, because it can get heated very intensely, or very passionate, or very obsessive and like fixated on something. And so it can be really quick to, kind of, attack things, or things that it's afraid of, or that it doesn't understand. It can also have a tendency to be extremely passionate, right? We can see a lot of passion with Mercury, Mars conjunctions. But these planets are going to be in opposition at the time of the eclipse. So we always have the Sun and the Moon in opposition, representing that polarity at the time of a full moon or a lunar eclipse. But we are also going to have Jupiter in opposition to Mercury and Mars. Interesting. So Mercury and Mars is going to be like this quick moving energy, and it's going to be about get it done quick. How do we do it now? And Jupiter is going to be, I think, about our beliefs about resources, money, funding, or laws revolving around banks. And so to see this polarity, I think the Scorpio energy could be about releasing fears. To see all of this like really kind of joyous, abundant, futuristic type of energy in Taurus, I think it's about a collective intuitive awakening. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think it's going to be this moment that's going to be like, holy cow, this thing is happening. Like it's growing, it's getting bigger, or, we're seeing something suddenly appear that we've been manifesting or asking for a really long time. After all, a lunar eclipse is about some major conclusion. But this is also reminding us that collectively our emotions are so strong, and that we have the ability to focus more on our reality that we're building versus the world outside of that, which is a hot, angry, argumentative, confrontational, people melting down, wanting to fight, wanting to argue, wanting to start wars type of, reality. And so it's going to be really important, I think, during the eclipse to be practicing prayer or meditation. Jupiter and the Moon is peace. Like take a walk in the garden, plant some flowers, make a healthy meal. Do something that is going to be about nurturing the soul and also having faith while the eclipse kind of period is taking place. But yeah, collective intuitive awakening. And, I think that you guys are going to see this polarity between Taurus's need for life and resources and abundance, and Scorpio's really intense desire and need for transformation, shedding, and transmuting old karma. But for Scorpio to do that, there has to be a crisis, right? So that's the other thing you guys got to think about, is that this can be an eclipse that suddenly you might realize, okay, this thing has hit its breaking point, and, Mercury, Mars, I'm done. I'm letting it go. It's time to be done with it. I'm dropping it. And so there can also be big emotions that can come up during this particular eclipse of just finally grieving or letting go or feeling relieved and like walking away from something. And that's something that you're rewarded with or for may not really play out until the beginning of the year, right? So we might be looking at this going, why did the job end? Why did the relationship, shift? Like, why did the, situation fall through? Where's the money? But I would encourage you guys to really think more about, okay, the blessings are still on the way, they're still coming, and having faith that the universe is going to provide. But also be thinking about what are you tending to, right? What's blooming in your life right now? What is actually physically manifesting and taking shape? Here in the Northern Hemisphere, now we're in the fall. So this is the time where we're really kind of taking a look at, all right, we brought all of our crops in, we brought all of our food and our resources in for the winter, we're taking stock in what we have. And so for a lot of you guys who are, homesteaders or preppers or, people who just like to keep your pantry stocked, there can be this huge grin on your face right now looking at all of the things that you have planned for your pantries for the rest of this year into, the beginning of 2024. Just how many things you've preserved or pickled or stocked or saved up on, or maybe you picked things up that were, affordable and you're like, look at what I got and now I've got plenty of it. Now I'm good to go, right? Because the Jupiter can represent the awareness of what you actually need. And what's interesting is that because it's ruled by Venus and Venus is in the sign of Virgo, you guys are going to realize the true value of good food and also good relationship to material objects, to things, to pleasure, having probably some things in your possession, which might be like herbal remedies, or it might be some crystals, it might be a plot of land, right? Something that is going to bring you some kind of physical security. And so focus on that during the eclipse as well. You know, I think that that's really important. I think that because these Scorpio energies are so hot and heavy and they're very intense, it can be distracting and getting you out of your body, right? I think there's a lot of that going on right now. It's like, this crisis isn't working, so we're going to kind of create another crisis over here. And oh, by the way, you know, we're also doing this. And so it's like we're on this horrible game show or reality show right now where we're like, could it get any worse? But what this is teaching us is to slow down and collectively come together and realize, okay, we can't be pulled out of our body. We can't be pulled out of our awareness. We can't be pulled away and distracted with all of these confrontational oppositions. We have to stay grounded. So there's a need to be calm and collected. And perhaps even, I think with the opposition to Mercury and Mars, not attached to an outcome or not attached to other people's, words or their reactions or their meltdowns, and learning not to like take it personally, not allowing it to affect you physically, right? And there's going to be a lot of this with these oppositions for sure. And for me, you know, whenever there's a lunar eclipse, I always notice like everybody's just a lot more emotional. That does happen, and that's going to be especially true with the conjunctions to Jupiter. But I have personally experienced with these eclipses within this axis that there is a sense of grief. Like I have noticed that there's grief that's come with these full moons. And I think personally it's because there's like this awareness that emerges that's like, oh, this thing is over, or it's wrapping up, or I'm graduating from, you know, from this school or from this relationship or from my hometown. And so I do see some of that coming up, the awareness that you're completing something and the grief that may come with the fact that something is ending, but also it's kind of like, but it's providing, you know, some new big opportunity. So I feel like, especially Taurus energy, it's about growth, and Jupiter can also be about making things bigger, where we're becoming acutely aware of where we have outgrown things. And perhaps maybe that's part of the lesson, right? As we start to see Jupiter and Uranus kind of come together in the spring, if we've outgrown something, suddenly we have to, you know, do something bigger and more exciting and more unusual and more futuristic than we ever imagined that we ever could. So it's possible for some of you guys that have been resisting the change. This can be, you know, the eclipse that can come through that really pushes you to be willing to complete something. Try to stay calm and take note to, you know, where you have really done a lot of work, whether it's in regards to your finances, your self-esteem, or security. And also, you know, take note of also where there has been give and take. I really see give and take through all of the polarity of the 12 signs, but especially with Taurus and Scorpio, because, you know, Taurus can be very much what I pay, what I'm giving, what I'm building, and Scorpio is about, you know, what other people are receiving or what you're receiving from other people. Very karmic kind of entanglement type of house. So for some of you guys, it might be a breaking point that comes because you're like, you know what, I've just been giving, and I'm not receiving anything from that, or it's not a fair exchange, or I'm paying too much, I'm giving too much. And some people might feel like they're quite literally at their breaking point where they're like, I can't afford this, or I can't afford to stay at this job any longer, or I can't afford to, you know, keep going through these same kind of cycles and like not creating some kind of change. And as a reminder, you know, because Taurus is about what we possess, something to really kind of focus on is what you're holding on to, right? What you are deeply attached to, especially because of all this opposition to Scorpio. You know, are we so physically or financially or even spiritually, you know, Jupiter is there, tied to something, but we know that maybe it's time to like set it free or to let it go. And if you think back to, like I said, April, May of this year, we had a Mercury retrograde that also went through these degrees. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Mercury, I think, stationed either on or around this degree where we're going to have the eclipse. Go back, you can watch the video for the Mercury retrograde. I know I talk about this eclipse that was coming. So we were already kind of going through the motions of rethinking, well, how do I make this change? How do I make this shift? How do I adapt in some new way? Jupiter was also there as well. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, this is a lunar eclipse in Taurus, but the North Node's in Aries. Yes, so this is a out of sign eclipse, okay? So it is not going to be an eclipse that's conjunct the North Node, but because it's close enough, it's still picking up the energy of the eclipse being in the sign of Taurus. So, yes, the North Node in Aries, that does put this lunation second house to the North Node. So it's about what we possess and what we're taking stock of within ourselves. And Venus's aspects, like I said, very much important because, well, it's just been eclipses all month in October ruled by Venus, which is also going to be bringing up the themes revolving around health and service and sacrifice. So if you didn't already see this, I guess I should have said this, but we've got the eclipse that's going to be coming in on October 28th, 2023. So by the time you guys are watching this, we're already post solar eclipse in Libra, so we're already kind of in the energies of this eclipse building. The eclipse will be taking place at 1:24 p.m. and that's going to be Pacific time, 4:24 p.m. That's going to be Eastern time. I'm here on Central. You might be somewhere else. If you are, just adjust your time zones. I would also say that this is an eclipse that you guys want to be mindful of. That's probably going to start from the moment that the moon, a day or two early, is in Aries and starts squaring Pluto, because that's going to represent this whole like holy shift. Something's going on here. That change is in the air, and it's going to be bringing up these long-standing themes of the node square Pluto, where we are finally confronting old power structures or issues with control in our life, right? And then this eclipse will roll for a little bit. So you'll see when it comes into conjunction with Jupiter that it's going to feel bigger. It's going to be in an 11, which means about something futuristic, and it will oppose Mercury and Mars. So it's going to bring up this intense kind of exchange just hours later after the eclipse takes place. Now, this will be an eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus. So if you have any personal planets around 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees of Taurus, or sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be affecting you personally because it'll be conjunct that. It means that it's going to be making something feel bigger in regards to that planet in that house. This is where it pays to know your natal chart. Equally, if you are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees of the fixed signs, so Leo and Scorpio and Aquarius, you guys will be feeling this, but this is the last one you're going to have for a while, so I think you'll be able to handle it. For some of you guys, especially who have planets within these degrees, or if you happen to have Taurus placements within these degrees, it's going to feel, like I said, like a holy cow moment, like, oh, this is happening, but it's also going to be some kind of positive change that's happening in your life that is going to possibly, especially if you're a fixed sign, be affecting other areas of your chart. It'll be squaring some of the angular houses, which means the volume on life is going to get turned up a little loud. You're going to see some big change that's going to happen that's going to impact other areas. All right, one other thing I want to mention is that we did have a solar eclipse. This was in April of 2022. This solar eclipse was around 10 degrees of Taurus. So it's relatively close, not exactly conjunct, but relatively close. So close enough for me to be like, maybe look at what intentions you were setting in April of 2022, almost, wow, like what, a year and a half ago. And this is now completing that because it's conjunct in degrees. So you might see some of those themes from spring of that year coming up for you. But obviously with eclipses, we start feeling them weeks in advance. And by the time we get to the second eclipse, we're already kind of in that eclipse window, that 2 weeks in between. So for some of you guys, this stuff is happening early. I think I've said this in other videos, but I'm looking around going like, what's happening? Like, why are these eclipses hitting so much sooner than they have been in recent years? Why are they hitting a month before the eclipse? So some of you guys might be listening to my predictions for the 12 signs going, oh, that's already happening, right? Yes, because we've had retrogrades and other things that have been here for a couple months. So we already get that feeling that something is getting ready to develop. Now in astrology, obviously, eclipses symbolize powerful moments of change. It's about transformation. Sometimes it's new beginnings. In this sense, we are completing a cycle. So lunar eclipses happen when we have the sun and the moon that are in opposition to each other, and the earth comes directly between the sun and the moon, and it casts basically this shadow that will fall on the moon and dim its light. Now, symbolically, lunar eclipses have connections to completions, release, and emotional and psychological themes come up whenever we're dealing with the moon. So oftentimes we see with these eclipses some kind of definitive closure, especially when it comes to relationships or things that are not really serving our highest good. Now, this can also illuminate, because the moon is about illuminating feelings or situations that we were not really aware were there. They were kind of like lurking subconsciously, and it can come to the forefront. So if we have pent-up feelings or something we need to deal with, it will likely emerge, giving us the opportunity to kind of work through it and heal it. So definitely working with herbs, working with crystals can be really helpful. I have really loved using a grounding mat like the last couple of weeks. It's been really helpful with some of these intense energies. But also just taking a walk outside, right? Keep it simple. You don't need to do anything crazy or expensive to be able to celebrate this moon. If anything, the real necessity is faith, right? Because of that conjunction to Jupiter. Now, these eclipses can also signify powerful shifts in our personal awareness, a heightened sense of intuition, and some kind of significant change involving our past or our roots, our family, sometimes even our home base. Now, astrologers, we pay attention to these eclipses because we know that they are basically bringers of change. So it helps us make predictions in people's charts about big things that might be taking place in their life. And also it helps us when we are creating kind of horoscopes and weekly or monthly recommendations for you guys. It helps give us additional context and understanding to what's unfolding, so that way we can be better prepared for talking to our clients. So keep in mind that there's a lot of transformative energy that's going to be taking place with this eclipse. And if it's conjunct an angle in your chart or a natal planet, it can be like the catalyst for change. Now, like I said, Taurus, sun, moon, and risings are going to feel this the most. The element is earth. So sometimes when we see lunar eclipses taking place in earth signs, we can see physical changes with our money or our job or our resources, things revolving around earthly things. And Taurus obviously deals with practicality, being stable, groundedness, physical, material things, but some emotional tendencies that we see that can sometimes come up with a lunar eclipse in Taurus is the need to be patient, but also, being tapped into our intuition, being tapped in also to, what we possess, what we value. Now, this can be our relationship to possessions. This can also be the things that we own. So sometimes I see with eclipses, there's big purchases or big transfers of funds or money that can be going on. So some stuff that you're going to hear taking place around this particular eclipse is going to be themes about banking, possessions, money, pleasure, resources, self-esteem, comfort, food, and farmers. Now, like I said, this particular eclipse ruled by Venus does make me feel like we are going to see Venus and Virgo people in headlines. So I don't know if this is going to be about nurses or servants or healthcare providers, pharmacists, women in the service, job numbers, especially jobs pertaining to fashion, the beauty industry, and the service industry are going to be huge themes that are coming up. Now, for you personally, things that you might want to be asking yourself under this eclipse, first of all, find the house that the eclipse is taking place in. So you have to cast your chart. You can do that for free on astro.com, or you can book a reading with me. Put in your information and find out which house Taurus is in. That is the house where you're having the full moon eclipse. Then I want you to think about what's been going on in your life since November of 2021, what lessons you've been learning here, what's been developing here for you, where you stand after almost 2 years of eclipses in that house. Is something finally completing? For some of us, like I said, it could be a potential payoff or a blessing because Jupiter is going to make things larger. Now, I want to read to you guys what Jupiter's Sabian symbol is. And I will also read to you the Sabian symbol for this eclipse. So Jupiter's at 11 degrees, so almost 12. And 12 degrees of Taurus, window shoppers. The keyword is visualization. Looking at options, the symbol speaks to the role of imagination and mental rehearsal in helping the individual evaluate whether or not he's likely to succeed or be happy with any particular choice that is open to him. The image of the window shopper alludes to fact-finding, ideas gathering, and looking at options, but the implication here is that no goal can ever be achieved unless the individual makes a decision and acts on it. At its highest, it represents having a natural gift for spotting potential. The accent is on options, gathering information, making decisions, have fun and enjoy stretching your imagination, appreciate the many opportunities. Your greatest advantage lies in taking the time to look at all the possibilities that you can see in a thing. Turn it around in your mind as if you were looking through the lens of a camera. Visualize different settings. Think of usefulness in different times for different purposes. Be creative. Guard against self-defeat and ruining all chances of success and happiness by telling yourself that what you want is beyond your reach or that you're not deserving enough to have it. I love that so much for the Sabian symbol here, especially with it retrograde, because there is this kind of sense of being like, I need to know it. Taurus says, I need to feel it. The moon says, I need to know that it's gonna arrive, that I'm gonna have this safety and security. So that's cool that it's kind of indicating probably there is a need to visualize. And anybody who manifests will tell you, you got to tell yourself you have it. You got to, feel into that. What does it feel like to finally, pay off a loan? What does it finally feel like to, beat a health issue? What does it finally feel like to connect to someone or something that makes you feel supported, right? What does that feel like? That's what you want to be working on at the time of this eclipse. And you have to keep doing it. It's not something that you're going to stop doing. You have to really be focused on visualizing what you're manifesting behind the scenes, really clear into this new year to receive these goodies. But also, when I think of window shopping, it's like that thing that you really want, right? And you're like, one day I will get that thing, and I'm going to stop by every time I'm at a store and look at it, or, I'm going to follow that brand, or I'm going to follow whatever it is that you want. And kind of being fixated on I'll get it someday, it has to be in the distant future. And so I think something about this kind of tells me that it doesn't have to be in the distant future. It could literally be here come the new year, right? It could be here come the spring of 2024. Things are possible, even though it may kind of seem like it's a bit of a miracle. But watch for some big potential payoff. Ask yourself how finances changed or evolved. How have your values changed? What is your relationship to physical possessions, be that food, goods, or material goods? And are you at a point with finances or self-esteem where you're breaking down, right? Are you feeling like you're breaking down, or are you feeling like you're breaking through? And a question that I would be asking myself also is, do I feel defined by what I possess? Ask yourself that. Do I feel like I'm defined by what I possess in this area? Because I have this feeling that what's going to happen when we see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is that we are going to start looking at wealth differently. We're going to start looking at freedom differently. We're going to start looking at the planet differently. We're going to start looking at money and banking differently. So there is an opportunity to evolve, but I think that it's going to be getting out of this mindset that value is determined by what you wear, what you own, what you possess, or numbers in a bank account. What is going to be valuable with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is going to be the people you know. It's going to be the people that you grow food with, the people that you invest with, the people you buy land with, good friends, right? People who also have connections to good, healthy food, who know how to work with the planet or the land, or maybe they know how to have a good time. The point is that we're shifting away from this material focus when it comes to wealth. We're shifting more into a wealth of community and how communities can benefit by working together to where everybody gets fed, everybody gets electricity, everybody gets some kind of resource of some kind. So try to focus on not being defined on what you possess. Now for my predictions, I know some of them are kind of grim, but you guys know I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm definitely anticipating we're going to see collectively lots more talk about the rise of prices. And when it comes to, you know, the grocery store or going to the farmer's market, or if we're having to import things or buying things, everybody's going to be talking about just how much things cost, right? We can't really avoid that with what's been going on with printing money and inflation and the last couple of years. But I do think we're going to see prices of things that are going to grow, or some things that are going to be more valuable. So I'll get to that. Learning more about food, where it comes from, what's inside of it, how it's grown. I remember telling you guys almost 2 years ago now, when we saw the Uranus North Node conjunction in Taurus, that, you know, conservative people are going to be like the new rebels, that farmers are going to be like the new rebels who are going to be pushing back, that people who either work within the banking system or the future of banking are also somehow going to be rebelling. And we've seen all of that with cryptocurrency. We've seen that with the Dutch farmers and the protests of farmers all around the world. We've seen recently, I believe it's in New Zealand, where there's lots of shifts going on there as well, with, you know, changes in their politics and their parties. We are seeing some of the Jupiter, Uranus, Taurus kind of things that are coming up. So this might be highlighting this more. So we might hear more from like professors. Like, I think the conjunction with Jupiter can be, you know, professors and people from universities. We're going to be hearing a lot more from economists, and I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from financial advisors. And I think some of the things are going to be painted over in a very positive light. It's like, everything's great, everything's going to grow, it's good, lots of jobs, this, that, and the other. And I do feel like the tide is going to turn come the new year. So when we get to the new year, you guys are going to start to see, as Jupiter wakes up and it's getting closer to Uranus, that we've been told a storyline or a narrative that everything's fine. Or maybe it's that, you know, secretly behind the scenes, Jupiter rules Saturn, that there are backroom conversations and meetings and all kinds of legal things that are being passed to prepare everybody for the groundbreaking things that are going to happen in 2024. You guys are probably going to start hearing about how bodies can generate electricity. You guys are probably going to start being or hearing more about also fusing bodies with things that can carry currency or credit cards or other things. You guys are also going to start hearing more, I think, about anything involving the future of the financial systems and whether or not, you know, something is going to be upended and we're going to go to something like completely new. So all of these things are going to come up. I'm hoping that it's going to allow us to focus more on the positivity. I'm hoping that also we're going to see some good things that are going to happen where, you know, certain people within the Venus and Virgo camp come forward and play a role in passing laws related to financial matters, relating to, you know, banking matters, relating to agriculture, in environmental themes. I think we're going to be finally hearing from some people that really have some solid facts and figures that can better help guide politicians and leaders to make better decisions that are also morally and ethically more in alignment, rather than just doing what's best because they're, you know, they're basically being lobbied or because they're working with some, you know, major company. This is going to be more about taking the recommendations that are going to come from health, wellness professionals, financial professionals, to pass better laws, I'm hoping. I do think that you're going to hear rules pertaining to agriculture, specifically cattle, meat, or dairy, and also prices revolving around that. You know, I saw some concerning stuff being proposed for legislation here in the United States where they're trying to do away with like cattle sharing. I think that's what it's called, but basically where you can have, or is it herd sharing? You can have, like you can buy or own part of a cow or a fraction of cattle with like other people. And whether that's butchering it and, you know, being able to share it, or, you know, having some kind of involved investment with a group of cattle with other people, they're trying to kind of keep that from happening. So I'm wondering if this is going to bring up stuff revolving around that. And also environmental, you know, health acts or things revolving around animals and our health. I think you're going to see lots of stuff being decided upon with that. We're going to see where some physical resources are going to be more valuable. So things revolving around herbal, vitamin products, natural remedies, spices maybe. I think we're going to start to see where some of these things are very valuable, and hopefully educating people that you don't just have to reach for a medicine cabinet, that there are natural treatments for things. There are natural supplements that you can take for stuff. There's ways to better support the body. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be, taking a medication. And so as some of this information collectively starts getting out there, I think you're going to see the price of some supplements or some natural foods or spices might potentially go up. Now, service jobs requiring more pay. This is something we're already seeing. We're seeing some states requiring like a mandatory hourly wage for fast food and like restaurant employees. So that's happening. I think that's partially due to the Jupiter moon eclipse, but also, Venus in Virgo. So I think about, people who are in the service industry that are having to, get paid more, or maybe expenses are going up. So we're going to pay more prices for food or entertainment, for hotels, or even for beauty related things. Which in turn, also I think we're going to see travel expenses going up as well. Because Jupiter deals with travel, obviously Taurus is money. But because Jupiter is the dispositor of Neptune, and Neptune is going to deal with gasoline, sextile Pluto, so oil and gasoline, I think we are going to see that because there is going to be maybe a surge in natural resources and the price of natural resources, there in turn we're going to potentially see gas go up. Now, I do think with Saturn being in Pisces also, this can create oil shortages. And so you'll see price surges that will happen revolving around natural things. I've said this for some time, but especially with Jupiter and the moon getting really close to Uranus, be curious to see what things are looking like around the time of the eclipse with like copper, because, copper is ruled by Venus. Taurus also has connections to copper. But also like natural gas is something that I'm thinking about, other natural resources, and things that are connected to like building materials. All right, so you will also see themes revolving around banks, fees or charges, interest rates, and interest hikes. Expect that. Laws pertaining to what you own, what you can or cannot trade or possess. Think crypto. Okay, recently I saw now certain online exchanges and platforms not letting people in the UK who have some of these exchange, like online exchanges for crypto, like they're not letting them now register and be able to trade that. I think those laws are changing in the new year, but that makes total sense to me. Then I think about people being debanked, okay, which we have heard that has been taking place in Australia and also parts of Canada. I do think we're going to hear more about debanking and people who potentially are dealing with debanking for political beliefs, maybe where they've made donations. I think of Jupiter's generosity, or potentially even their religious views or affiliations. And so I'm curious to see if there is any kind of debanking that is happening because of these things. Finances being conditional in some way. Okay, so this is important because Venus is in Virgo, and this is a sign that deals with like systems, and it's kind of like, mercurial. So it could be this or it could be that. So there can be a sense of, I'll give you this if you give me that. If you want this, you must do this, right? To have access to this resource, food, support, whatever, you need to do this thing. So my eye is on like, okay, how would there be more of an introduction to CBDC? Would it be for homeless or people who are disabled? Would it be for Social Security? How could they potentially start luring people in saying, hey, we'll give you something, Jupiter and the moon, but this is how you have to use it, or this is what you can use it on. So there might be something conditional to money and how things are being spent and systems. And also Venus in Virgo is at 18 degrees. So that's not an easy degree to have Venus in, because it does double down on illness, sickness, problems also, revolving around the service industry and employees and people at work. So it is kind of saying that if, for whatever reason, there is some hike in prices, it can be because people are striking, or they're saying, we're not getting paid enough, or, what have you. There may be a sense of there being a lack of support in some area, or a lack of material, right? I mean, there could be low supplies on something, so suddenly the price kind of skyrockets. What else? So physical material, perhaps being more valuable. So like I said, copper, I'm going to be looking at that. Silver, because the moon's exalted in Taurus and Taurus's metals, and that could definitely be talking about silver. But even physical land. So I think we're going to start seeing more revolving around property tax. I think we might be seeing more also about rules and regulations over who can buy land. I think I saw out of Florida recently in the last month or so, they're basically trying to make it impossible for, I think, specific foreign countries to come in and buy like agricultural land. I could definitely see that being a Jupiter moon thing, where it's about the laws governing over what you can and cannot possess, right? And then look for also the fact that this is at 5 degrees. So this is a degree that is a Leo degree, which is about children and creativity and fun and romance and self-expression. And it's very much, it's very authentic. So people being very emotionally connected to, their true nature, right? And I think where that can maybe set some people off, that opposition to Mercury and Mars. But also when I think of fives, I think of the stock market, and I think about investments. And so this can be what you're physically putting in, and the 8th house can represent what you're getting or what you're giving out of it. So I think we're going to hear a lot more at the end of October about debt, and where we're standing with personal debt, credit card debt, with our debt that we also have within the economy. That's a huge theme. But the stock market, and I'll show you guys how I was like, I have a couple charts that I feel like are going to get triggered. And then I looked at the charts, and sure enough, they came up. So I'll share those with you guys also. And if you guys caught my last solar eclipse video, I talk a little bit about how Venus in Virgo is really highlighting and touching on Venus being in the spotlight. So yes, the eclipse, the action is taking place in Taurus, but we really want to be paying attention to what Venus is doing in Virgo. So a little bit easier, obviously, solar eclipse in Libra. We had that eclipse that had Venus behind the sun, so it did represent something kind of wrapping up or being cleared out. Now we've got Venus that is 5 houses away from the moon, and this is also doubling down on that energy of Leo. So it can also be about health of children. It can be about our romantic life, what we're making time for. Are we making time to have fun, spend time with our kids, making an effort to go out and meet people, but also to create, right? To create probably the life that we're envisioning, what it is that we truly desire. But Venus is debilitated moving through Virgo. So, just to be aware, she's not happy here. She is in a sign that is about cleaning or perfecting something or healing something, or maybe having something that's not perfect. Venus in Virgo recognizes that perfection is very hard to achieve. So part of showing love and appreciation is, the willingness to make it better, to give that constructive criticism, to help them align or kind of reconfigure something. So we may find that we are being more critical with those that we love, but also I think there is a sense of realizing that love is not perfect, right? Venus in Virgo teaches us love is not perfect. It's not always easy. It's something that requires a lot of effort. It's something that you have to work on every day. And so whether this is your relationship with your children, because it is 5th house to the eclipse, if it represents your love life, if it represents the chances that you're willing to take, maybe some of the changes you're willing to make in order to have happiness, right? That can be coming up. Or maybe how we're teaching or leading the way for younger people, right? The eclipse at a 5, and then we see this 5th house from the sun, and, where collectively we're realizing, children of the future, younger generations are probably looking around going like, what the heck is happening? What's going to happen to us? Like, are there any leaders? So a lot of this is also about listening and following, not just your intuition, although there's a lot of intuitive planets that are in the skies right now. it's about this internal belief and knowing that you have the capability of being able to follow your heart's desire, or being able to maybe teach your children better or lead your children better, and not leaving it up to other people in society to do it. You're going to see so much collective learning that's going to be taking place, and grow ops that I think are going to be taking place, that we're still yet to really reap the benefits of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It'll come next year, and you guys are going to start seeing amazing communities coming together, helping promote growth, but more importantly, I think health, right? Education. So, when I see Venus in Virgo, I think about dependence not being a primary focus, and like learning how to be more self-sufficient. So you guys may be trying to focus on ways to do that. And you might be having to take chances and investing in things, or learning more about things to help make it more so likely that you're going to be receiving some kind of support or abundance. But yeah, Venus in Virgo, the connection to the 6th house, there is a sense of having to focus on maintenance. So I could see this also being about how we're having to really tend to something that we love, or the cost of having to, stay healthy or stay fit. That could definitely be coming up here as well. So the pros of this is that I think we have more sensitivity, more awareness, more willingness to kind of do work when it comes to our finances, our self-esteem, our relationships. But also I think that, the Venus-Uranus trine is saying just shortly after the eclipse, we have the ability to actually really make a change. We have the ability to really heal something, to move through something, to like let something go. And it can be liberating. There's a lot of liberation that you guys are going to see with this moon, especially as the moon moves deeper into Taurus the next day and comes into conjunction with Uranus. So look for challenging expressions when it comes to this, because like I said, Venus is in a position where she's not so comfortable. There's a little bit of tension. And I want you guys also to be really focusing on what comes up for you emotionally. Like I said, there's going to be emotional intensity, but I think that it's about this intensity coming to the forefront so we can focus on having stability again, like moving through issues where maybe we do need to be a little bit better about, building on a solid foundation for the future. Rather than just quick fixes, we're like, no, we finally are going to get to the heart of this issue, and we're gonna build it better. Okay, so this will increase your likelihood of having better security, comfort, and stronger finances. This is about a major awareness that comes to you about your transformation of your values and what you've been working on. Yes, there can be financial matters that can come up, but we can also see themes revolving around romantic relationships, because this is a sign that is ruled by Venus. And while Taurus is more what brings me pleasure, what I desire, what I possess, the Libra eclipse was more about other people. So now this is kind of saying, okay, changes have happened in relationships with other people, but where does that leave me? How do I feel? So stability, security comes up. Obviously, that's a theme with Taurus, but I do feel like this can be about releasing and letting go of things that maybe gave us a sense of false security. Or maybe it wasn't necessarily, or it isn't necessarily what makes us feel safe and secure any longer. So it's like this awareness that's like, I used to think I had to be in a relationship to be safe, but now I'm realizing, it's better to be in a healthy relationship or to be on my own, rather than globbing on to things that may not necessarily give me security to begin with, right? And so, take it for what you will. You got to look at the house that it's taking place in, but there is a likely opportunity to have some sudden awareness about what is getting bigger, what you're completing, and watch for those sparks between other people. Focus on letting go if necessary, because these are times of release. Do yourself a favor, have a self-care routine, be doing something to make you feel grounded and comfortable. So self-care routines, anything that's going to improve your well-being and make your living environment a little bit more comfortable can definitely help you during this eclipse. And don't feel like you need to make any big decisions during the eclipse either. Yes, information is going to be coming fast with this Mercury-Mars conjunction, but really the lesson here is to take your time and try to make practical decisions. That's what Taurus wants us to do. They want us to think about how things are playing out in the long term. And I think that, you know, while everybody else is rushing into something or rushing to some story or some situation and they see the immediate gratification, some people might look at that and go, no, this is not the time to buy that, or this is not the time to invest in that. You know, I'm gonna stay kind of in my lane and let everybody else kind of like worry about X, Y, and Z. And I will approach this when the time is right. So if you hear anything about sudden investment opportunities or, oh, move out of this stock, move into that stock, get it off at this exchange, put it in this bank, take your time, because there is going to be information that's going to likely come from the eclipse the next day, right here, when Mercury and Mars, well, they're going to start connecting the night of the eclipse. But then we're going to see over the PM hours, so going into the 29th, the moon and Jupiter come into conjunction and they oppose Mercury and Mars. And I don't like saying this, but I look at this and I'm like, man, like there could be an overnight surge in something. And you're going to see a lot of people who are going to suddenly go, oh, I want to get in on that, or I want to sell this, or I want to buy that. And it's going to be likely because of some big news. But I don't know if I would buy during the news. I think that this might be something that to me seems like it's going to be polar opposite. You know, we know what we say about 11s, right? Suddenly evolving, futuristic, things that involve electricity, or, you know, in this case, I'm wondering, are we going to see like overnight surges for costs of power or utilities? Are we going to see some kind of major, you know, event take place in the world where there is conflict and then it shoots the price of something up? Watch for this. This is going to be on the 29th. And then the moon is going to keep moving through Taurus, come out of that opposition, and it will start connecting later in the day with Uranus. So this is in the evening. So it's like, okay, something happened. And then it's like, no, here is the collective kind of response or reaction to this thing. Well, it's going to trine Venus. So it's going to be about how people are responding or what they're buying or eating or consuming, you know, or trying to get involved in. I do feel like it's health related, but it could be also about the health of the markets or banks. Okay, just also so you guys are aware, the tarot card that's associated with this eclipse, because it's in the first decan, is the Five of Pentacles. So it can be a difficult card. This is a card that comes up that talks about sometimes financial hardship, isolation and loneliness, making necessary health changes, moving out of poverty mindset, moving out of feeling, you know, spiritually or emotionally at a loss, and that, you know, it's not something that you can come back from. This is about overcoming adversity. So when you see the the Moon-Jupiter conjunction, it's kind of representing this moment that's like, oh my gosh, we did it. You know, or we completed this thing. Now we're done. And the feeling that you get from overcoming something. So some of you guys might feel like you've been waiting for a payout, or you've been waiting for a reimbursement. Maybe you've been waiting for some good news to come, and then it just immediately shows up the very next day. So it's about also within the first decan of Taurus, that focus on Venus, because Venus is the ruler of the first decan. And so I think about the trines that we're going to see around the time of this particular eclipse, and how it's basically saying we have to focus on the physical health of something, and whether that's our finances, our banks, if this is about connecting health to food and natural treatments, something like that kind of comes in. And I think about nourishment as well with that connection of the Five of Coins, and watching Venus kind of activate the Uranus retrograde, about what we're going back and fixing and taking care of, and how that's actually impacting all of us in a very physical or financial way. So Venus is the sub-ruler. Venus is very strong. The first decan of Taurus is about as Taurus as it gets. Let's see what else. And the Sun-Mercury conjunction, it's going to go on for a couple days. So it's going to be something you're going to see that's going to continue. And I also kind of wondered if this was going to be bringing up something involving like taxes, So that may be something else that you guys might want to pay attention to. I don't know if, I think I talked about it in a previous video, but we definitely recently had some stuff go down with the Federal Reserve where essentially like banks are not paying taxes on money that they are making. So we've got some of the largest, wealthiest institutions in the world that are not paying taxes on some stuff. And I definitely feel like this is going to be perhaps where there is some public outcry about taxes increasing and cost of living increasing and food increasing, but where those who are actually, doing business with us, right? We are customers of the banks, are just taking. So you'll feel that kind of imbalance between the two. That's definitely going to come up from that. I did do some past looks, by the way. So I looked at the last two times that we had eclipses in Taurus. So we had, let me show you. We had an eclipse that was in November of 2022. All right, so we had this Taurus lunar eclipse. This was at 16. Square Saturn, that was a fun one. We had this particular eclipse that took place, and what I did is I went and I Googled just the financial, bullet points, the headlines for what was going on financially around these eclipses, because, it's happening in a financial sign. So when I went and did this, these are some of the headlines that I pulled from November of 2022. So I pulled the executive summary for the month. Powell at the Fed reaffirms that a smaller rate hike will be taking place up ahead. Inflation is still hot with CPI at 7.7%, but less than feared. Equity markets rallied strongly into the month's end, and the yield curve remains deeply inverted. Okay, so this is just after the eclipse that we had in November of 2022. Now we can go back to another one, which took place November 19th, 2021. This was the first eclipse actually in the series of these eclipses, and it started in Taurus and it ends in Taurus. This was at 27. So November 19th, 2021. So this is the November Outlook headlines that I got in the financial world. Jerome Powell on transitory inflation, quote, it's probably a good time to retire that word. I think he was talking about transitory. Omicron variant spooks markets. Oil declined over 20% this month, and this was 2021. The VIX saw its largest monthly surge since February 2020, and early holiday sales robust but below expectations. So it kind of sounds like, for the most part, when we've had these eclipses, big things that are kind of coming up revolving around, what we are spending versus what it's costing, or what we're putting into something versus what we're getting out of it. And I have noticed more so than not that these have been the eclipses that we have seen some challenges kind of coming up in the markets. Now you're going to want to obviously look at the eclipses where they've been taking place for the last few years. And you might want to be looking at the eclipses that were taking place in the spring as well. That'll also give you an idea of what the themes are pertaining to the eclipses in your own chart. So very quickly before I get into the 12 signs, I just have to share with you guys some stuff that I was looking at and I was like, this is crazy. So I wanted to look at, specifically, the first thing that came up for me was like the stock market. I was like, let me look at the New York Stock Exchange chart. Like, let me see what's going on here, because I just had a feeling, that it was going to be somehow connected to the stock market. And sure enough, there it is. Okay, are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? So this is for the New York Stock Exchange, opened on May 17th, 1792 at 10:10 a.m. in New York City. Okay, so it boasts a Leo rising, sun in Taurus, and the moon is in Aries. All right, so obviously having had the eclipses in Taurus the last few years, had a North Node conjunct the Sun and Mercury, the 10th house is the top. We've been seeing a lot of things that have been kind of building. Uranus has been very close to Mercury as well. So there's also been a lot of things that are changing about the future, right, when it comes to the money and the stock market. Anyway, so the eclipses that we've previously had here has been impacting this chart. We've also seen that they've been the chart's been experiencing a Uranus square. So this is about, the future and innovations of money and how it's impacting maybe the influence I could see of the stock market. Uranus on the ascendant. It is a bit fluctuating, right? Very Uranian. Anyway, so we have the eclipse that's coming in at the end of October, and it's going to be at 5 degrees of Virgo, 5 degrees of Taurus. So this particular eclipse is activating the New York Stock Exchange chart. Let me show you. Smack dab right on top of that. Okay, so 5 degrees. 5 degrees and so many solar arc minutes. It looks like it's about maybe 21. But still, nevertheless, you guys are going to see if there is an eclipse taking place right on top of the Venus of the stock market, this is going to be an eclipse that's very much going to affect the stock market. And watch this. The North Node is also conjunct Saturn. Okay, so this is about foreign affairs, foreign wars, 9th house, Aries. Also, I think it can be pertaining to international media. It can be also pertaining to maybe laws. But the eclipse ruled by Venus, we have got Venus exactly in conjunction to Mars. So a Venus-Mars conjunction can indicate some kind of sudden, investment, some surge. There can be some kind of possession, money, wealth, resources. So I'm not mad at a Mars-Venus conjunction, especially Venus in the second house. It may indicate where if you're following your instincts and you're making moves, it could pay off. But there's just way too many exact conjunctions here for me. North Node conjunct Saturn. I mean, that's talking about, public speculation, and also Saturn is connected to the 6th, so this can be revolving around job stuff. And I will continue to watch these eclipses now that I've seen it into the spring next year, because you're going to see more activations when the North Node is coming into conjunction with the moon, and that's going to be happening just in the new year. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think that was very fascinating. South Node conjunct Jupiter. So it may represent a turning point, I think, within the market. But I personally feel like we are probably going to see things, for the most part, be more positive and optimistic until about the end of the year. And then when Jupiter goes direct on Venus, which is the whole sign second house ruler, you might see a nice little pop right before the end of the year. And then once we get into the new year, I don't think it's going to be as positive and optimistic personally. That's just me, but we'll see. Okay, so that's going to bring a lot of attention to the stock market. But then I was like, wait a second, President Biden has a Taurus moon. So Biden is Sag rising, Scorpio sun, and his moon is in Taurus at 0 degrees. So we've got this lunar eclipse very close to his moon, within 4 degrees, and also right in conjunction pretty much to his point of fortune. So when the lot of fortune gets hit, especially with like Jupiter or an eclipse, it's going to bring something up. And when I say lot of fortune, it doesn't mean it's neither good nor bad. It's just, it is what it is, right? So something is going to be kind of activated in regards to that. Now, technically it's in the 5th house, so it can involve Biden's kids, but it's in the whole sign 6, so it can be pertaining to his health. And obviously the eclipses and the Uranus opposition has been impacting his health and his daily routine. More importantly, the moon can be his emotions, his home, his family. It can also be, I think, things pertaining to his vision, because it is highly aspecting the moon, which can represent his eyesight, but also memory, brain, rest, that kind of stuff. And then 2, the other thing to take into consideration is he's also been in the process of experiencing Pluto square his moon. So there's no doubt that he's really kind of been under an intense amount of pressure emotionally, and also because of things that have been coming up in regards to his finances, Pluto in the 2nd. And the squares and how that really exposes some things in regards to his family, right? The moon's the 8th house lord. So I'm not politicking. It's just very fascinating, because I would assume, the last 2 years of some of these eclipses that have been going on, that's really been really showing a lot of his private life, a lot more about his children, his grandchildren. We've heard a number of things about the dogs that Biden has had and the issues he's had with dogs. I guess like biting service members, which is not funny, but it's kind of like it's happened a lot. Maybe that's been Pluto square his moon. But this can also represent a change in regards to his public reputation. So it's interesting to see this, lunar eclipse, which is going to be like a lunar return on steroids all month long for President Biden, definitely bringing up a lot revolving around, I think, the health of himself, but also really paying attention to his relationship with his kids. Okay. So then I did one more deep dive. I was like, can I go 3 for 3? Because I was like, okay, Biden, the stock market. And I was like, I bet you dollars to donuts there's going to be something connected to this eclipse in the United States progress chart, because I know there was not much in the natal chart. Okay, so then I looked at the US progress chart and I said, what's going to be going on there? Oh, well, we've got this eclipse in conjunction to the United States Venus, progressed Venus. So, changes very slowly over time, moving through Taurus where it's actually healthier. But the eclipse right on top of Venus with Jupiter that's retrograding does seem to indicate that it can be bringing up themes in regards to our international relationships. Jupiter rules the homeland. Venus in the 9th can represent the relationship with foreigners. This can also be about foreign investments and, financial gain that can come through relationships with others. 9th house can be importing, exporting. So I'm curious to see, once again, we have a eclipse activating a Venus point, really similar to the stock exchange. In theory, this can represent a big completion in regards to relationships. That's the other way of looking at it. Can it be a turning point where certain countries' relationships with the US is kind of facing potentially some challenges? We've had this for the last few years. Progressed, Venus has been in opposition to Saturn, and now it's working its way out of that. But we will continue to see Pluto in Aquarius continue to enact this particular square between Venus and Saturn. And so I think as that happens, what can impact our ability to have wealth and healthier relationships with people abroad? Well, I think, Pluto in Aquarius is going to say, are we, taking responsibility for our part as a nation? Are we going through a huge purge when it comes to, government jobs and positions? It's very Pluto in Aquarius in the 6th. And also uncovering or unveiling potential hidden enemies and people who, will cause issues or misfortune, or who are mismanaging or mishandling maybe budgets and things like that, pertaining to specific groups within politics. So I don't know, we'll see. But definitely for this to be activating the stock market, Venus, Biden's moon, and also this, you're going to see stuff revolving around all 3 of these topics. I think definitely have fireworks during the eclipse time period. Now, just as a reminder, guys, when we see Jupiter return, there you go. When we see Jupiter return back to 5 degrees, so this is going to be in mid-December. Okay, so this is going to start round about December 15th. And then you're going to see on the 30th, Jupiter will go direct. So from the 15th to the 30th, here is Jupiter back in this degree, hanging out in 5 degrees of Taurus. So we might start to see more unfolding pertaining to the events with this eclipse around this time. And then you're going to see this hang out there until about mid-January. So it's going to be important for you to still be patient and waiting to receive that goodness come January. But this also means if something potentially expands to the point where it cannot continue, and this is why I believe you're not really going to start to hear some of the truth about what's going to be going on economically until the new year. So take that for what it's worth. I'll let you guys now move on to the 12 rising signs. I think I've talked at you long enough. So let's make this a whole sign for the 12. All right, so as a reminder, I am a Western astrologer. I'm going to be showing you guys where the eclipse is going to be taking place in Taurus for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. I will be using the whole sign method, but if you like to use Placidus, that's totally cool. Just look for where Placidus Taurus 5 degrees is in your chart. You might have to listen to more than one rising sign. I do recommend listening to your rising sign first. That's going to tell you where in your life this eclipse is taking place. Then listen to your sun sign. It's going to help you with your happiness, your creativity, your vitality, and your career. Then you want to listen to your moon sign, which I really recommend because this is a lunar eclipse. Listen to your moon sign. It's going to give you some kind of insight in terms of what to be aware of and what you need emotionally when this eclipse comes through. Feel free to use your progress chart also. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. You'll see some truth in all of those. All right, so let's start with Aries and Aries rising. Aries and Aries rising, you are graduating, you're completing what's been almost 2 years of just doing so much work when it comes to your financial and material themes. It's going to be emphasized this time, so you're really being encouraged to develop a sense of inner knowing of your worth. Really focusing on managing your resources and doing it more so effectively, and possibly even pursuing like a job or an occupation or something that's going to make you feel like it's aligned with your values, okay? So obviously full moons in the second house can boast, a lump sum that comes in, or it can be a check or a payment or a major purchase. But the ruler, Venus, is going to be in your 6th house at the time of this eclipse. So it's basically saying, yes, you may potentially get offered a job with a bigger salary. However, it's going to require a lot more work and a lot more dedication. And, maybe you're going to not have an assistant, right? Venus kind of being in a position where she's not so happy. Equally, this can also be representing that you're learning something about your self-worth and your values, and maybe you learn that through being of service to other people, and you kind of realize what your best qualities are, what you bring to the table. This might be about better health through the method of natural supplements, remedies, aromatherapies, things revolving around making changes to your eating habits. And specifically what gets triggered for Aries and Aries risings is the throat, things pertaining to health and the throat or digestion, because it is activating these two parts of your chart. And so something that you want to be really focusing on when this eclipse comes through is, releasing any attachments to anything that you feel like you're supposed to have, right? Because the universe is just going to give you exactly what you need and then some. Reminding yourself that you are constantly attracting abundance, that you're secure, that you're stable, that you're healthy, that you're employed. These are things that you want to be telling yourself during the eclipse, and that you are going to be provided for because sometimes during these eclipses, things get eclipsed out and we don't see why something was removed. So if it's like, oh, I can no longer eat this food anymore, I'm allergic to it, well, maybe it's better for my health if I'm not eating it. Oh, this job finally, kind of fell apart, but, I applied for something and I found something that's better hours and, better pay. And then you realize, okay, that's why the job got eclipsed out. So don't worry about the blessings. The blessings are going to come. You're going to be provided for. And the card that I get for you is the Hermit card. Hi, Venus and Virgo. This is also about this inner knowing, okay? Like Virgo obviously has connections to the Hermit card, but I could definitely see Jupiter in an earth sign having similar kind of like sagely knowledge and, something that they learn through working with the earth or spending time by themselves or, just quietly doing your thing. This tells me that, yeah, you've been working hard for something, right? And it's important to be reflecting on, whether or not it's bringing you fulfillment, whether or not it feels good. I would be asking myself, do I like my relationship to material things? Do I like the way that I'm eating? Do I like the way that I'm spending money? And if something feels off, change it, right? And have the capabilities and the willingness to say, okay, to change it, I need to meditate a little bit. I need to reflect. I need to be alone to kind of better perfect and figure out how to make this thing better, or how to bring in more, how to be more productive. Good luck, my Aries. Good luck. Taurus and Taurus rising. I bet you guys are so ready for this to be over, huh? You are having a lunar eclipse in your sign. This is a full moon in your sign. It'll be taking place in your first house. Do yourself a favor, go back and look at the last 2 Novembers, okay? Go and look at when we had lunar eclipses taking a place in your sign. What was completing for you? How were you coming back home to yourself? Very full moon in the first house. You know, this can be about a physical transformation. This can be about you looking differently. This can be about some big emotional completion process you're going through. It's definitely, I think, an energy that's probably a lot easier than some of the other eclipses that you've had in recent years, when you were seeing, you know, exact conjunctions to Uranus and you were seeing squares from Saturn. This is a little different. Thankfully, you know, there are trines at the time of the eclipse taking place with Venus. And while Venus is not totally comfortable in Virgo, she likes having fun in a well kind of thought out manner, in a timely manner, you know, in a clean fashion. And Venus loves being in the 5th house. So there's some gift about this eclipse for you where you're finally learning to maybe love yourself more in your true like nature, right? For who you are, not for what you could be. I also feel like the eclipse putting Venus in your 5th house is great for taking chances, creative projects. It's great for investments. It's wonderful for romance and also for children. So if you're single, it's kind of like all eyes are on you, drawing the attention to your physical body. And trust me, people are going to be either attracted to you or responding to you. Something's going to be going on here with these particular energies in your 7th. So this is about really completing this process that's been about personal growth and self-discovery. And I think it's also about asserting your identity, taking charge of your life path, stepping into some new role. And it can also be about self-improvement that is possible. Some sun, moon, and rising Tauruses will have some connection with children because the ruler will be in the 5th house. And a full moon conjunct Jupiter for some Taurus and Taurus risings can also be an indication of pregnancy. I definitely see that with moon Jupiter aspects. Even if it's not something now, it might be something that is emerging as we're getting into the new year. Now, something to take into consideration is that you are going to be having all of this energy in Scorpio in opposition to your sign. So the days of and leading up to and after, like that whole week, pay attention to your interactions with other people because you've got a really strong, fierce Mercury, Mars, Sun in the 7th. It's very commanding, it's very passionate, it's very intense, and it's very self-focused. So you want to look at this as really similar to if Sun, Mercury, and Mars were to go through your 1st house. You'd be like, I need this feels good, that doesn't feel good. So other people are going through this right now, Taurus, and you're going to see with clients, relationships, partners, people are going to be very spicy. They're going to be very independent. And the biggest challenge I think you may have is just being patient, right? Being patient and being understanding. If some people have worn, too much on your patience and you're at a breaking point, right? There can be certain things that are said suddenly in relationships to other people that could kind of make you realize like, oh, I don't like this, or this is not the direction that I want to move forward, or we have a difference of opinion on something, but it's obviously being highlighted and it could make you quite emotional. So just be mindful of that. The card that I got for you is the King of Cups, which I like because I do feel like this is about being able to master your emotions. So maybe after several years of like somebody or something getting your goat, you're like, I can handle this. I know when to show emotion and when to be, more so grounded. Obviously, the Uranus transits haven't been doing you any favors. It's definitely been these really strong impulses that should be coming up for you about freedom and needing to break free from something. So there's a little bit of that comes up here. But I feel like this is about handling some of those intense back and forth with other people in a loving, nurturing, harmonious, tapped in, intuitive kind of, manner. This can also be about a Scorpio because you have all these planets in the 7th house. This can also be about a Pisces or a Cancer. So if you're somebody who partners with a Scorpio or somebody who's got a lot of Scorpio placements, pay close attention to what's going on with this person because it can be about them helping you with something. It could be about some kind of an emotional connection you have with them and talking about what you guys could potentially do together. Remember, you're the visionary right now with Jupiter and Uranus in your sign. So there's a lot of telling other people this is how life could be. And you might get some reactions from people that's a little like judgmental or kind of, heated. So try to remain patient in the face of this. And for you, I think it's about finally completing these really significant emotional cycles. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus in your natal 12th house. My Geminis, so this is definitely an eclipse that you could feel maybe like a little squirrely, like that can definitely happen in your 12th house. This is about what is hidden, subconscious. It's about your connection with nature in private, your connection with the universe. And I think for you guys, this is about kind of finally getting to a point where you're like, okay, I've had enough alone time. I've had enough alone time. I've been reflecting, I've been traveling, I've been studying, I've been meditating. I've been going to school. There's been something that you've been doing in private. And now that the North Node is in your 11th house, you're like, now I'm ready to meet with other people. Now I want to get out and socialize. I've gone through my dark night of the soul period. Let's get back out there. So this might be for you, wrapping things up that need to be wrapped up so you can really truly embrace that. So you can be more so kind of connected to a collective. A full moon in the 12th house is about releasing the past, trusting your intuition, believing that the universe has your back. And what comes up generally is, spirituality, hidden matters. The subconscious somehow gets highlighted. And this can also give you the opportunity for deep self-discovery, releasing old patterns, and embracing some kind of spiritual growth. At the time of this eclipse, Venus is going to be in the 4th house, and it's moving through a mutable sign. So it's technically squaring you in some way, shape, or form. Starting to see that you're moving out of the opposition to Saturn, where you felt strapped between work and home. Now it's coming into an opposition with Neptune. So you're going to realize that work can wait, right? What your focus is on home, security, family, women in the home, maybe people coming to visit you. Maybe it's going to be about tending to your home, cleaning it, decorating it. And it's about your vision coming to reality. Now, could you have a woman from a foreign land coming to stay? Sure, especially if you have a parent or a family member that lives somewhere else because of that connection with the 12th house. But it can also mean other things like deep, ancestral connection, healing family trauma, releasing issues revolving around your subconscious, things that happen in your sleep, precognitive dreams and other things can come up with this conjunction. Now, the 12th house can also be the masses. So this is about how you're responding to global events and things that are going on in the world. My advice is get somewhere quiet, get somewhere in nature. Even if that's doing that within the home, right? Because you can bring nature into the home. You can maybe bring in some, healthy foods and, put on a display in your kitchen or something that's going to be calming. Maybe it's going to be about, creating a safe space in your home where you can meditate or you can relax and read. Maybe it's tidying up an altar space. Any of these things you could do during the eclipse to better kind of connect with this energy. And really be open to just releasing whatever kind of comes up, even if it's coming up in the subconscious. Some of you guys might go, I just spent the night, in bed by myself, but I had these wild dreams. Likely you'll see a lot of that kind of get cleared out there. All right. So let's take a look. Let's see what the cards are saying for you, my Gemini. The card that I have for you is the Emperor. I love this for mastering something. I feel like this is also really touching on Mars, right? So the opposition to Mars. Oh, hi, Mercury-Mars conjunction. You're ruled by Mercury. So you've got Mercury and Mars in the 6th house where there is going to be a need to tend to a situation revolving around your health or your schedule or your routine. Maybe there could be a little bit of an intense exchange that you have with a coworker or with somebody who's like assisting you in some way. You know, Mars, Mercury makes me feel like you gotta be careful. You're more accident prone. There could be, you know, injuring, you know, a hand. Mercury can be about your limbs and your fingers. It can be some kind of something getting inflamed, or, you know, having some issues where you need some support from another person. So, you know, you're not feeling so hot. You know, some of you guys might be like, I need to call a friend or somebody who can kind of help support me. Somebody who rushes in, helps kind of assist me in a situation. So Mars would be friends, or it would be connected to helpers. You might have a friend that's like, I'm a nurse, you know, let me just check you out. How are you feeling? Not to scare you, but just letting you know somebody will come to your aid or your assistance. And sometimes, touch wood, when we have these eclipses pertaining to the 12th house, it can also be about hospitals or healing centers or rehab facilities. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm good, I'm just looking for somebody who's a specialist who can help me, the right person can show up. Especially if you're looking for like a trainer, a dietitian, somebody who can help you detox, a therapist. If you're looking for a coach of some kind, somebody will show up that can help you actually get out of your head and like really kind of get active with the routine. So you're not feeling like you're falling into these old patterns, likely encouraging you to be more self-sufficient, but also kind of take charge, take action in some way. There can be help that can come from an Aries as well. So it would not surprise me if there's either somebody through work or somebody who's a friend who has like a courageous spirit that shows up and just like helps you through something, or maybe gives you a pep talk when you're feeling a little kind of squirrely in the 12th house. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you. My Geminis, let me know, especially with that Mercury-Mars conjunction. Let me know. I'm curious how that plays out. All right, so we've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You'll be experiencing a lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus in your natal 11th house. All right, so first of all, full moon's a big deal for you, right? Because you're a Cancer, so you really feel the lunar transits. So you know that the energy is really peaking during a full moon, but especially a lunar eclipse. Now, the 11th house puts this focus on anything revolving around other people. So friendships, social networks, humanitarian causes, these are all going to be the themes in your life right now. It might involve a group of people. It might involve some kind of, connection to a group of people that are contributing in some way or are connecting with you in some way, and likely to help you in some way because of the conjunction to Jupiter. So when we see an 11th house lunar eclipse, there's big themes around who your friends are, who's got your back, and also you'll see themes revolving around your goals, because the 11th house is about goal and wish fulfillment. Now, at the time of the eclipse, we're going to see, just shortly after actually, the moon will come into conjunction with Uranus. So I think it's going to be triggering something involving change, where you're talking to a group of friends about going through some kind of shift. It's also possible with Venus being in the 3rd house that some kind of connection or communication is coming from a neighbor. It's coming from maybe a schoolmate. Maybe it's coming from a sibling, maybe a sister or an auntie, or a step sibling reaches out to you in some way to talk to you about helping you make your goal a reality. So look for those like little love notes and text messages and phone calls that you get from people who want to kind of talk to you about what you're hoping to complete. It might mean that you find yourself now 2 years later in a completely different friend group and a completely different like social group. And these could be artists and people who are into making jewelry or agriculture or chefs or people who are into astrology. So this is about some kind of unusual group that you are associating with now. It's really important to be reminding yourself that you need to be connected with like-minded souls. It's important to be around the right people to help you manifest what you're hoping to manifest, and to be a part of a community that's making that a reality. The other thing I would also say is that Taurus is a friendly sign. It does sextile your sun, moon, or rising, so there is some kind of support. You might feel like that group dynamic is very different, or it's kind of taking a sidestep from maybe a romantic partner or a hobby, or maybe spending time with your kids and you're like, mom needs a night out, something like that could happen, because there is some very strong polarity that's taking place at the time of this eclipse in your chart. And where friends can also bring so much love and support of you and your creative endeavors. The card that I get for you is the Two of Swords, which I do feel like may represent some indecisiveness as to whether or not you want to reach out to someone or whether or not you want to connect with someone. Maybe you're thinking about approaching somebody about a collaboration. Maybe you go to a party and you're like, there's that person I want to talk to. Do I say something? Do I not? You know, there is a stellium of planets in your 5th house, which is about romance and, you know, fun times and opportunities to go out and meet people. So this energy is really beneficial for Cancer, especially with some of the trines to placements in Pisces. And this is about really listening to your emotions and your intuition, not trying to make it complex and overthinking things and like psyching yourself out. If there's someone or something that you really love or something that you really want to participate in, go and be around people who are doing that thing, because it can help you really get out of your head and more so into your body to make better decisions and not feel like you're kind of going back and forth about something. Okay, but overall, definitely an easier eclipse for you, Cancer. So let me know how that plays out. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing a lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus in your natal 10th house. Oh boy. So there's big stuff happening, Leo. Okay. I know the last couple of years you've been kind of feeling it. You've been going through the ringer. So many changes at home and on the work front. And likely you see them in close proximity to one another. Or one is kind of also like affecting the other. You've had these eclipses in your 10th house, which is about your career, your status. It's also about your relationship with people out in the world professionally, so bosses and other people who kind of see you or who work with you. It's a very visible house. It's the top part of the chart. And I would also imagine having all this Scorpio in your 4th house where there's action and moves going on or changes at home or building things or kind of working on things. You're feeling the pressure between the need to kind of handle business at home and also just potentially what can be like a very sweet situation with work or career. Some people with eclipses in the 10th house, I see them, you know, get offered raises, or I see them quit jobs to go and launch their own thing. Sometimes it's like a really impressive meeting that leads to some big new endeavor. So you got to think about what you've been working on kind of building for the last 6 months or so when it comes to the area of your career. This is about aligning your life with purpose and being a leader, being really grounded when it comes to your success and your vision for your work. I think that some of you guys who are looking for jobs may actually end up getting something, or you'll get some kind of an offer. It may also mean that there is some kind of freeing yourself from something professionally as well, because just after the eclipse, the moon is going to conjunct Jupiter and then Uranus. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of show you like, I can go on my own, I can do my own thing, or, you know, I can handle the change, or I can work with the group. Uranus represents partnerships, and, you know, Venus obviously is the ruler of this particular eclipse, and it's in a close trine to not just the eclipse, but also to Uranus, which seems to symbolize for me where you're willing to do something different really gives you the opportunity to bring in more. Okay, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's like quitting one job, taking a chance, starting a new one for better pay. I don't know if it's like going your own way, or maybe for some of you guys it's retiring. But you're definitely doing something on top now, right? Because now the North Node has moved into the 9th house. Anyway, obviously if you are a early Leo rising, you're going to feel the square a little bit more. So, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees, you're going to feel the pinch. And really, I think Jupiter is just trying to say, just, you know, this thing needs to evolve, and whatever is evolving, you've already been thinking about for a little while. Go back to the spring of this year, go back to also what's been happening over the summer, where there's profound shifts going on revolving around work, home, and your own personal identity. Be willing to really focus on your ambitions and achieving them and following your life's purpose, and, you know, taking on a leadership role. For some of you guys, it's being a parent because it's conjunct Jupiter. For some of you guys, it's launching your own creative business. For others, it's about, you know, finally becoming a teacher, or, you know, publishing your own book. Whatever it is, this is kind of like the grand finale. So I hope it's as sweet for you as it looks for me. Let's see what your cards say. I get the 9 of Wands, which is interesting. I mean, this is definitely a card that's like, don't quit, keep going. Like, now is not the time to stop, even though you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling kind of like, man, like I made it, but at what cost? I know a lot of Leo risings personally, and I've seen all of the success they're having out in the world, but I also know it's coming with like a great challenge on the home front, or they're overcoming obstacles with moving, or dealing with parent issues, or, you know, dealing with major challenges revolving around grief of letting something or someone go in order to embrace something new. So it is a bit bittersweet. Do not give up. This is a card that reminds you that you're almost finished. And even though you feel like you're kind of surveying the damage, really give yourself credit for how far you've come. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You will be experiencing a eclipse taking place in Taurus. This will be in your natal 9th house. It's in a sister sign, so if you are a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees, you'll experience a trine, so that's more harmonious for you. My Virgos, well, the eclipse is happening in your 9th house, where it's all about expanding your horizons, seeking higher wisdom, and trusting your path. You know, for me, this is a house of, you know, finally graduating, or, you know, finally completing a program, getting accepted, you know, finally getting to complete that trip that you booked 6 months ago. And it's a positive house. And so I love to see Jupiter in the 9th. And then I also love to see the aspects that are playing out to Venus in your 1st house. I do feel like this can be a little bit sweeter for you than the last eclipse. You know, travel, education, and your beliefs will come into focus. You're being encouraged to explore new horizons, expand your worldview, and embrace your spiritual or philosophical growth. I know some of you guys have had relocations or trips or relationships that have really changed your mind. They've really changed your perspective on life. And I think a lot of that's the South Node through the 3rd. You were releasing what you thought you knew, and you were trying to kind of gain a better understanding of the world. So because this is an expansive house, and it's generally pretty optimistic, and Jupiter is there, trining Venus in your sign, it's kind of like you looking at things being like, life's an adventure, anything's possible. I'm here to tell my story. I am really open to being flexible or traveling. Maybe you're adopting a much more positive or optimistic mindset. Maybe it's because you have read a book or encountered a teacher or a mentor that really changed your belief system, and it helped you shift the way that you look at home, philosophy, travel, education in some way, shape, or form. So pretty positive for you. The other thing I would say, just to take into consideration, is that you have to really look at what's played out for the last few years. I know Jupiter in the 9th house can be the bringer of celebrations, and it can also be about ceremonies. And I think about Saturn in the 7th house, where some of you guys are saying, hey, I would really like to cement this relationship in. You know, can we talk about getting married? You know, do we have a ceremony? Do we elope? For others, it can be about long distance relationships and your relationship that you're having with people who might be at a distance, or your beliefs shifting revolving around relationships. This is all because of the sextile and the connection to your 7th. What else? I think that's pretty much it. But for the most part, it is more positive and optimistic. The only other thing I would say is that when the eclipse is happening, Mercury, your chart ruler, is coming into conjunction with Mars. So there is like a sense of saying something or writing something, you know, off the cuff, and it can be very intense and very quick. This can also be bringing themes revolving around cars. So like, you know, suddenly having to get in the car and go somewhere, suddenly, you know, having a shift in where you're going to school, or some kind of change regarding a travel situation. It involves a document and you have to like grab something very quickly. I don't know. But definitely with Mercury and Mars being in conjunction during the eclipse, it's putting an emphasis on you, as is Venus in your sign. Maybe it's trying to get you to think more about how to express who or what you love, and maybe going a little bit more of the distance to do that. I don't know. Let's see. The card that I get for you is the 7 of Coins. Sorry, guys. 7 of Coins. 7 of Cups. Duh. I think for me, this is about being able to cut through something. some kind of misunderstanding, miscommunication maybe. It's also possible that this is about cutting away anything that's like, yeah, confusing. I think the Seven of Cups is having too many options or not having clarity. I'm wondering if this has anything to do with Venus coming into opposition with Neptune and, you know, questioning whether or not you really want someone or something. Maybe it's about going after what you want, but it has to, you know, it requires you to go and learn or to go and travel and to not put as much focus maybe on relationships, as much as I hate to say that. It's about being like, yeah, it'll come when it comes, you know, or I need to have a life outside of my relationships with other people. I need some kind of freedom or maybe some spontaneity, right? But also watch out for too many options, too many choices, and things that could be said, and I could definitely see this with some of the oppositions to Neptune, that could be misrepresented or misunderstood. I think that that can definitely be a theme, and you can get into some really intense philosophical exchanges within the 3rd or the 9th house. So, you know, discussing business, politics, you know, money, religion. These might be some topics that are a bit more challenging to communicate on. Anyway, good luck. Let me know how that plays out for you. All right, so we've got Libra and Libra rising. You're going to be experiencing an eclipse. Oops, there we go. You'll be experiencing an eclipse in your 8th house. This will be in Taurus. And this is a sign that in conjuncts or quincunxes you Libra. So just as a heads up, if you're a Libra rising, especially around, let's say 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees, this represents a little bit of a blind spot, okay? Now for you, this is about releasing fear. It's about embracing transformation. It's about some kind of rebirth energy that's going to be taking place. Obviously, seeing the moon in the 8th house can represent really combating some fears revolving around finances, resources, security. You want to really reflect on what's been going on with the eclipses for the last almost 2 years in this part of the sky. The 8th house definitely touches on, you know, transformation, shared resources, and intimacy. This eclipse can involve deepening emotional connections, facing your fears, dealing with issues related to finances, as well as inheritance or taxes. Now, what's interesting is that you're ruled by Venus. This is an eclipse that's ruled by Venus. You know, you just recently had one in your 1st house, so there's something that's kind of changing about your physical appearance or your identity. And now you've got another Venus eclipse that's in your 8th house, which is definitely about releasing and kind of letting go. Both featuring Venus in your 12th. So you're going through this process spiritually in private. It's kind of hidden. As much as I'm not really wild about saying this, you know, having Venus also as the ruler of the 8th house going to the 12th, is it can represent something revolving around your health and insurance matters. Like I could see, you know, Venus in the 8th house saying I need to see a specialist, or I need to go to a doctor, or I need to go to an emergency room. And suddenly realizing, oh, I need, you know, to get a surgery, and like that being connected somehow to the 8th house or an insurance matter, or contemplating whether or not that's something that you need to do. This can also be about inheritances because Venus's connection to the 8th and the trines that you're going to be seeing to Uranus. It can indicate that there is something that's coming to a close, or something that may even be involving a family member or an estate or a property that is also bringing in resources. Now, this doesn't have to be limited to family. It can be partners. It could be spouses. So you also, Libra, if you are partnered, you might see towards the end of October, a partner is just like, you know, totally having some growth in regards to their finances and their resources. And likely, something about this makes me feel like it can be relating to conversations that you've been having for some time, maybe about investments. I don't know. But they can have a chunk of change that can come here as well. Now, one other thing is that, like I said, Venus is moving through a part of the skies where it is not as comfortable. So I want you to be taking time to rest, recuperate, to really focus on spiritual health as well as physical health. I do want you to pay attention because you're getting ready to have Venus come into an opposition with Neptune here soon. So it can represent, if you're not tending to the things that you need to emotionally or spiritually, needing to go somewhere to kind of rest, unwind, or reset, So, it can be also private healing studios or, places where you can kind of work out or heal. Spas can even be coming up with the 12th house, okay? And so many planets in your second house, Libra. I mean, there is definitely a real strong impulse to possess, own, buy. There's some kind of financial opportunity that's presenting itself. It may come through the support of another person. Card is that? Oh, Queen of Pentacles. All right, I'll take it. So Queen of Pentacles comes up for you, Libra. And I'm not surprised by this because eclipses in the 8th house are really challenging, but you got to take a look at what's happened over the last few years, and where there's been losses for other people, there's been gains for you. And so I don't know if that means that you're just in the right business, that it's benefiting you, that, you're not getting hit as hard by some of these financial challenges. I don't know if this means that you're finally getting money owed to you from a lawsuit or from an insurance matter, or, like if it's like an alimony or a child support. Something like that could be coming in that's also helping you feel like you have more financial security. And so the Queen of Coins is about physically having it, but also nurturing what you have, tending to what you have, really managing your resources in a feminine way where you're allowing there to be room for growth. So it might mean that money is coming in, but then, money is being reinvested in some way, shape, or form. But very strong financial period for you. Look for the help from other earth signs. So you might see opportunities from Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo who may pop in that might help you in some way. Good luck. We have Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's going on, Scorpio? You're going to be having a lunar eclipse in Taurus in your natal 7th house. This is your relationship house. Oh my goodness. Well, it's been a wild ride for you, Scorpio. Several years of eclipses in your opposite sign. You saw for the last 2 years the South Node go through your first house. So there was a lot of releasing, letting go of old identities, changes with your appearance, changes with your body. And the North Node was really teaching you about partnerships, other people, clientele, spouses, partners, investing partners. But also some of you guys have probably brought in coaches, or maybe you have brought in new advisors or managers, right? Other people who help you manage money. Anyway, this eclipse is completing what's been a lot of change in regards to you and your relationship to other people. So you got to look back at what was happening in the fall of 2021. That's when this cycle began. So now you're completing something. Overall, a 7th house eclipse can be very much about other people, so it may not impact you as much, but I do think this one will because of all the oppositions in your first. Think about how Jupiter wants romance, right? Ruler of the 5th house. It wants children. It wants creativity. It wants fun. It wants to also practice some kind of like creative endeavor, right? And when you have the eclipse, the ruler is going to be in Virgo, and it's going to be in your 11th house. So it's bringing the love and the support with the sextile to your ascendant, sun, moon, or rising. Bringing support of like a female friend. It can be a coworker. It can be, a group, a network. It's like somebody's helping you in some way. Okay. So if you're single, you could meet somebody through a friend. A client could become a friend. A client can recommend that you, meet with somebody and improve some kind of like business marketing opportunity. The list goes on. So something about your relationship to groups of people or a friend. Now, if you've been in a relationship and the relationship has been up and down, back and forth, likely a lot of that's been because of the oppositions to your Scorpio placements. You want to see, are you a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising from 17 to like 22, 23 degrees? If you are, you have had Uranus in opposition to your placements, and you've seen like a lot of unpredictability and changes going on with other people. And perhaps it's been something that's really changed something about how you express your energy, right? That's the opposition. Now, major decisions and completions can come up here. So I've seen people with eclipses in the 7th house conjunct Jupiter that finally get engaged. I've seen people who, finally decide to end relationships, or relationships can pop. I think really what it comes down to is Jupiter rules money, values, and possessions. And it also has connections to the 5th house, which is about happiness, creativity, children. So likely there's a lot of like going back and forth with other people about maybe your money and what is owed to you, or what money you're making through your business, especially if you have a client-based business. And also like how that makes you feel. How do you feel about what you're making? Do you enjoy the way that you're making money? Do you enjoy the dynamic that you have with another person? Is there something that's kind of finally coming to, light in regards to a relationship? Maybe. And it means that if there is some kind of big change or something going on with the relationship, there's a friend nearby that can kind of help you through this time. Keep in mind there are a ton of planets in your sign. So, oh my gosh, you're in Scorpio season now, sun's in your first house or it's in your sign, bringing a lot of intensity and energy to you, especially with Mercury and Mars being there as well. You're going to hear a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings that are going to say, well, I just need this thing. I just need this change. Or I just, this is what I'm really focused on. Or this is what I'm going after. Because it's fusing this energy of the Sun, Mercury, and Mars in your sign. And the first house is what you initiate. So you're initiating change. Or you're kind of gearing up for battle and you're putting on your armor and you've got your sword in your hand and you're like, starting shit with other people. The key here is to realize that you're going to be very passionate during this eclipse. And there's going to be a sense of you being like, I want to go after what I want. And whether that's a person or a job or a goal of yours, or if you're willing to fight for your relationship to make your relationship work, that's one way that it could play out if you're partnered. But two, if you're single, it might just be that you just have the courage to just walk right up to somebody or pick up the phone and call that client and say, hey, I've got a proposition for you, or try to make the sale or the deal. But you are also likely going to be somebody who is very intense and excitable and very determined during this eclipse. And with Jupiter and the moon in your 7th house, it means having a patient partner, a therapist, having a coach, having somebody who's there to support you on standby is very important, because likely you're going to see lots of issues with communication. Mercury and Mars in your sign means that you might be either very intense or feeling really tapped in or feeling some kind of pressure to change, and that's impacting your ability to communicate with other people. Watch the entire 28th, 29th, 30th. As the moon activates Uranus and it opposes something that you have in Scorpio, you're going to see where other people are reacting to your behavior, okay? So it's about holding yourself accountable for what comes up. It could be that, you finally find what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be negative. But if you're feeling a little intense, blow off some steam and get some advice from a friend. Okay, so the card that you get is the Chariot card. This is all about, finding your stride, figuring out where you're going after your goals. It's a very, in my mind, kind of like a Marsy energy. I mean, even though this is a card that's associated with Cancer, this, for me, does feel like it's about being like, okay, I'm getting my ducks in a row, let's go, and like really being adamant about it. And so it can be amazing for bringing the right people in. But I'm wondering, is this about matters of home, family? Is this about relocations? Is it going to be about making a decision about a move? Is it going to be making a move quickly? Is it going to be a sudden engagement? Is it a surprise ceremony? Are you eloping? These things can happen as well. So whatever is coming, it's coming very quickly, very abruptly. And you're going to see a sudden opportunity for a change in direction that I think is positive with your relationships. And it can also be extremely lucrative. Seize the moment is what I would say, and really watch from the end of October to the beginning of the new year, where there can be some really amazing opportunities for growth, not just with relationships, but also what you're able to build with other people. Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising, and this will be a lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus in your natal 6th house. My Saggies, this might in conjunct or quincunx your sun, moon, or rising, so it is a blind spot, which means you in Libra need to keep your eyes open because there can be some things that you don't see coming. 2, Sagittarius, this is going to be taking place in your 6th house, and this is all about releasing the need to be perfect. It's about finding balance in your daily life. It's about focusing on health and being of service and getting the job done. Here we see routines, health are definitely emphasized. This eclipse can prompt you to make positive changes to your daily life and address health issues and find much more meaningful or fulfilling type of work. Now, what's interesting is that at the time of this eclipse, Venus, which is the ruler, is in your 10th house. So yes, it's moving through a mutable sign, so it's probably squaring something in your chart, but what this really means is that you have the opportunity here to maybe get a new job, to move into a new office, to adopt a new, practice, to really focus on, I think, seeing some of your professional or your health goals come to fruition. That's really the bottom line here. You got a ton of planets in your 12th house where you need to be mindful. You could be getting a little, feeling a little isolated. There can be a sense of kind of hiding out from the world. We will be seeing Mercury and Mars. So this is going to be your 5th and 7th and 10th house rulers in opposition to Jupiter. Okay, so you're Jupiter. So you're like, I'm just trying to get my work done. I'm trying to get things together. But there's stuff that's going on behind the scenes with my relationships or with, my mental health or, me trying to get a lot of work done behind the scenes. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm on a time crunch. The 6th house can be your schedule. And very easily within the 12th or the 6th house, we can have issues pertaining to our health or our rest that can kind of come up. The 12th house is where we sleep. So likely with all these energies through Scorpio, you're maybe burning the candle at both ends, staying up, working on things, trying to get things together. And you want to be really mindful of eclipses in the 6th house because it can definitely bring health-related issues to the forefront. Venus, like I said, is the ruler though. So it does tell me that if there is some change at work or a change with the schedule or a health-related issue, there will be somebody who has your back who can help you take care of it. I do feel like it would be either like a female at work. It could also be that you have like the best trainer or healthcare practitioner or somebody who comes in to help you manage something. Look back at the other eclipses that you've had in your 6th house because I do feel like it'll shine a light on where maybe there's been some dietary changes or changes with your schedule. Maybe you started going to the gym, maybe you stopped going to the gym. Something like that happened. And while the 6th house is routine, the Taurus is about what we consume. So I wonder if you are reflecting on, how you used to eat and like going back to old eating habits or patterns. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Maybe you're doing some kind of fitness or working out with a group. Maybe you've launched your own business and you're working independently. So something about this particular eclipse is highlighting, oh my goodness, like I almost have too much work. I've heard that from so many Sag risings. There's too much going on. And we know that with Jupiter and Uranus in the 6th house, there's a lot of having to juggle things and, see what is and isn't working and be mindful of time. 6th house is the help. So I've also seen certain situations where, eclipse in this area is like a babysitter quits or, an assistant gets hired or, we bring somebody in to kind of help us train the dogs or, take care of the landscaping. And you might find just the right person for the job, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at, if that's something that you're looking for. Equally, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for an office space, if you're looking to really expand and get into a space that's maybe more comfortable or is going to have some kind of community setting or connection to other people, this can also be a time where you can see that manifest. Now, keep in mind, Jupiter is retrograde and, be really mindful of that mid-December through mid-January period because especially with Jupiter ruling your sign, you may not really see some of these full effects until then. So if you do make work or lifestyle or health changes, give yourself until early January. That's when you're really going to start to see that you're in the full swing of things and probably you've adopted something that's going to be a lot better for you. That's going to make you feel a lot more productive. That's also going to make you probably a lot healthier in the long run. The card that I have for you is the Fool. I love that with Uranus being there, taking chances, going your own way, doing your own thing. Way to go. I definitely think that this is about like starting something new. So this might be a time where you're looking at things going like, okay, has this schedule been working? Has this habit really changed? If not, let's do something completely different. And I do feel like for some of you guys, honestly, with Mercury and Mars being in your 12th house, it sounds bizarre, but I would really recommend like maybe doing some hypnosis. I think that could work with these planets moving through the 12th house or doing some like regression work, or some of you guys might be going and working with a counselor or a therapist. Some of you guys might also be just making some changes to your PM routine, your bedtime routine, so that way you're feeling like you have more time and you're getting more stuff done, okay? Good luck, my Saggies. Let me know how that goes. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You will be doing this lunar eclipse in Taurus in your natal 5th house. This is in a fellow sister sign. It's in an earth sign, so you're going to be experiencing trines to your sun, moon, or rising, and also to Venus. So Capricorn, this looks like a nice little eclipse for you. So what does it mean? Well, this is where you're focusing on expressing creativity. This is about opening your heart, embracing joy, love, self-expression, your talent, and things revolving around taking chances, maybe dating, and younger people. Now, what you're going to see here is an opportunity to like finally complete something relating to these topics. So it can be when you're launching a project, you're focusing on something that maybe you've created. You know, relationships and dating can definitely come into focus here as well. And really, this is about being encouraged to follow your passion, taking creative risks, and exploring your hobbies or your talents. Now, at the time of the eclipse, the ruler Venus will be in your 9th house. So I definitely feel like some of you guys are going to be taking chances in long distance relationships. Some of you guys are going to be taking chances in trying to publish something. Some of you may be having some kind of opportunity to, you know, return back to school or, you know, take a hobby to the next level and decide that you want to get, you know, trained or certified to do something. I like the trine also to the ascendant. I think that can be especially helpful for Capricorn rising, especially mid-degrees, because it's kind of saying like whatever this teacher, mentor, trip, guru, relationship is, like whatever it is, it's really helping aid the person who you're wanting to become. What else? So the 5th house full moon lunar eclipse can definitely bring payoffs. It can bring lottery winnings. It can be really wonderful also for games of chance and working with the stock market. It can also bring some of you guys opportunities when it comes to to dating. So like getting out, meeting people, having a good time, you know, is definitely something you want to do around this eclipse. You have a lot of planets that are going to be hanging out in your 11th house, which is definitely very social. So I feel like the more that you're going out and connecting with other people, the more opportunities that are going to come your way through feeling, you know, creative and having fun and fulfilled. 5th house is children, so I definitely do see when there are eclipses in the 5th house, big themes revolving around kids. Sometimes it's pregnancies, sometimes it's kids moving out and going to school. Sometimes it's just, you know, getting in touch with your inner child. It can be about healing the inner child, especially with this particular eclipse, kind of slightly sextiling Saturn and trining your sign. It does make me feel like it's about being able to communicate in a creative way or communicating in a heart-centered way. So it can mean that you're having to express yourself and connecting with people who might be afar or abroad. So family abroad, a teacher that might be somewhere else, a spiritual teacher, but it can also be working with a foreigner, writing to a foreigner, or something involving foreign travel or long distance relationships in general. I'm wondering if some of you guys who are older, let's say well-seasoned Capricorns, if some of you guys are having kids that are going away or going off to college, because Venus is in the 9th house and you've got this completion in the 5th house. Can you guys confirm that? Or are you traveling with a child? Is there some significant event taking place where, you know, maybe you have a relative or a younger person, you know, that's getting married? That could be happening here as well. Oh, there it is. So it's the Empress. So, I mean, obviously, a lot of people would be like, hi, Jupiter and an eclipse in the 5th house, obviously big Empress vibes, but this is big Empress vibes. So mothers, motherhood, you know, women who are in your life, you know, mother figures. Also, this can just be about nurturing, creating, and giving life to something. So I think it's about maybe the lessons that come from that. You know, what have we learned about our relationship to our mothers or our family? how does that impact our worldview? How does that impact the way that we love other people? What do we believe about relationships because of what we've experienced as children? And what have lovers, romantic partners, or children taught us also about love and taking chances? I think the Empress card is so much just about also like self-care. And I think about the trines to the ascendant, where if you are somebody who's like a hardworking, you know, full-time mom and you're not getting enough time, it can mean about giving some of that to yourself. If you're somebody who has been working nonstop and you're feeling like, you know, you're not as connected to your creative self, it's about taking the time to pull out, you know, the paints and all the things to like create and draw and paint and play. And being in the state of that and like what you learn from being in the moment and kind of enjoying yourself. There's definitely like a storyline here with the eclipses in your 10th and your 4th house about the direction of your life changing and how you're embracing making certain shifts, about how you kind of live your life so you can embrace more of this home and connected to your roots and your family and designing and playing and you know, trying new hobbies type of vibe. Definitely, definitely, definitely. All right, so good luck for you, my Capricorns. Let me know what happens. I'm very curious. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You are going to be having this eclipse taking place for you in Taurus. It'll be in your natal 4th house of home and family. This is going to be for you all about, you know, healing the emotions within your roots, your family, changes maybe on the home front, intuition also kind of kicking in, finding inner peace and being grounded, right, in what seems like an ever-changing home or family kind of situation. Now, obviously, this is important because it's happening in an angular house. So similar with the other fixed signs, if you have anything, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees of Aquarius, you are going to be feeling the squeeze because this eclipse will square. And you and Leo are really feeling it because you guys are kind of like the focal points of this kind of opposition energy between Scorpio and Taurus. The truth is that a lot's been changing over the last few years for you within your home or your family. I don't know if that's been quite literally due to the Uranus transit or if it's been the North Node, but it's been about you upgrading, innovating, and looking differently at, you know, what it means to have a home and where that home should be. And what you've probably learned is like home is where the heart is, or home is where you are, or where you decide to be, because Uranus rules your sign. Anyway, if you look at the other eclipses, probably there was lots of changes going on shortly around the time of the eclipses that involve either a change with your home or a change with your family. Now, a ton of planets that are moving through Scorpio. It's just really kind of kicking ass and taking names. It's a lot about work and responsibility and being out there and being competitive and putting on your game face and getting stuff done. And this is all in polarity to, obviously, you know, the moon, but also Jupiter as well as Uranus. So this activation, when the moon comes into conjunction with Uranus and opposes this, it's going to be like, I've got a lot going on out in the world, but someone or something needs me at home. Could be your parent, it could be a landlord, it could be a roommate, it could be that you get a job and that somehow prompts, oh my goodness, okay, I'm relocating, I'm moving. And, you know, I want you to keep in the back of your mind that, you know, Uranus is still going to be in your 4th house for another, you know, year or two. It's going to be a little bit longer. So staying flexible with the changes at home is important. Jupiter will be there, like I said, up until, you know, next spring, and Jupiter's still got to go direct. So you might see some of this stuff actually happen for you closer to the new year, where some new job opportunities coming, which promotes a home shift or vice versa. And at the time of the eclipse, Venus is the ruler, and Venus is in your 8th house where it's going through some kind of transformation of joint resources. It is talking about taxes. It is talking about inheritance. It does talk about potentially family members who could be having some health-related issues and that need healing, and somehow it impacts you, whether it impacts your joint resources, maybe it's, you know, some kind of unexpected home expense, or, you know, a family member is going through something and you're like, I got to be there, I got to be home, or I got to get to my family. On the flip side, it can mean that, you know, money's good, things are coming in, you're working, and it's allowing you to make your home more comfortable, or it's allowing you to get the loan, or to relocate, or to remodel the house, or to get a bigger apartment. So that can also be coming up for you as well. The key here, I think, is when I think about the fourth house, I think about creating a safer home environment. And to me, it looks like, you know, it's like ever changing and kind of unreliable. So you may not get the stereotypical, everything is super comfortable and calm. You're probably going to be like, okay, we got to keep things moving. I know that home and family stuff might be changing in the new year. And then there's maybe still another change that's going to be coming in the spring of 2024 when Jupiter and Uranus fully come into conjunction in April. So I would say continue to stay flexible, really focus on maybe focusing more on family values rather than your physical space. And you're going to see some kind of completion that you've been going through in regards to home and your private life or the past finally start to kind of unfold. Besides that, you know, you'll see down the road, this is after the eclipse, but it's still part of it. There's going to be a number of planets that are going to oppose Uranus. So I definitely think you're one of those signs that because of changing or sudden opportunities job-wise, it may not affect you until a little bit after this eclipse. So maybe give it at least until the beginning of the year to really see the full unfolding of some of this expansion for you on your home front. The Emperor again. So I'm wondering if this is more about like father relationship. You know, this can be talking about the dad. And some astrologers see the fourth house as the mom and the 10th house as the father. But in this case, it's like it could be either or, because you have the sun going through the 10th and you've got the moon going through the 4th. And I think that these are two very strong positions for talking about home and family responsibilities, you know, work versus home and family responsibilities. This is about handling things like a boss. This is also about Mars, and Mars is going through the 10th house with Mercury and the sun, where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm being heard. I feel like I'm making things happen. I feel like I'm definitely getting something done. I feel like I can direct people and give them advice. And I don't know, it's a very powerful time. And I think that maybe this is where you like step up and you're like a leader in some way, something that you're initiating or managing in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Also look for Aries. Stuff can be coming up with Aries also that can be in regards to this. Good luck. All right. And then we have the Pisces and Pisces rising. You are going to be having this lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. It'll be taking place in your natal 3rd house in conjunction to Jupiter, which is your chart ruler. So this might be a little extra fortuitous for you, my Pisces. So this is going to be all about communication and communicating simply and clearly, how you're adapting to change, how you're expanding your knowledge, how you're getting the point across, how you're writing something, how you're blogging something. What have you learned over the last couple of years? That's really what I would reflect on. Obviously, Jupiter in your 3rd house is really expanding your daily routine. Maybe you're driving around more, maybe you're learning more, reading more. The list goes on, but there is something that either involves your community or something that you're learning, or maybe teaching yourself. Are you learning something about finances? Are you learning a new language? Are you anticipating moving? 3rd house can be about movement. But this eclipse is going to really have communication take center stage, and it's encouraging you to express yourself more authentically and expanding something revolving around education or travel. Now, at the time of the eclipse, we are going to see some interesting stuff. Both Mercury and Mars will almost exactly oppose Jupiter, which is your chart ruler. So Mercury represents relationships, and we've got Mars, which represents, you know, legal things. It could also be travel things, education things. I'm wondering if there is like a bit of a back and forth that you have with somebody at a distance, or an email or a phone call comes in. I wonder if there's some work opportunity that comes up that prompts you to travel in some way. I do think that there might be some debates going on, some philosophical debates about the world and about finances and about what people know, what people think in regards to that. And I do feel like you may see some intensity revolving around travel or in-laws or legal matters. because of that Mercury-Mars conjunction. So just a heads up, you can see that. Maybe you're talking to somebody about something that you're thinking about investing into. It could be a program, or it could be traveling. Obviously, the Sun, Mercury, Mars is a very intense energy, but it's in a fellow sister sign. So it's playing very nicely with Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, likely having you feel a little adventurous. So I'm wondering, it's like, okay, going on the trip, the eclipse in the third house is like, oh, I need the document, you know, and you don't want to be the person that gets all the way to the airport and then you're like, oh my God, where's my ticket or where's my passport? Like, these things can happen, lost documents, IDs, stuff of that nature. But it's wonderful, I think, for being able to share some kind of information or sharing some kind of knowledge with someone. Now, Venus is going to be in the 7th house. It's the ruler of this eclipse. It's in your opposite sign. So it is bringing focus into relationships that you have with other people and how you communicate. And we know that Venus is not totally thrilled in Virgo, but it does really well in the 7th house. So it does make me feel like for you, there's a lot of being able to heal or remedy relationship challenges through clear, calm communication, writing things out, planning things in advance, making sure that you have everything in your possession before you go anywhere or you do anything. So you're not scrambling to be like, oh my God, where's this thing? You know, do you have it? Did you pack it? Did you forget it? That kind of stuff. And also communicating with 7th house can mean, you know, talking to clients. It can mean talking to a therapist, an astrologer, increasing the communication that you might have, or, you know, trying to speak in a more positive manner, maybe even with a coworker, because Venus is in the sign of coworkers. So watch for important emails, phone calls, text messages, opportunities for trips, things happening in the neighborhood, things that could be going on also in regards to the lives of siblings. So the eclipse in the 3rd house could be about a sibling, but it could prompt some kind of phone call and, you know, getting or giving some kind of advice to them, especially pertaining to relationships. That could be going on here as well. So let's take a look. Let's see what's going to be going on for my Pisces and Pisces rising. Obviously, I'm really thinking about like the Venus trine Uranus. I know some of you guys have kind of already been on like teetering with some relationship situations, but now that we're going to see Venus trine Uranus, it's going to be like, okay, let's not fight. You know, can we be about a solution? What's the solution? What are we doing? Are we working on this? Or are we not working on this? And some people might not like the responses that they're getting from the other person, decide to kind of pull back a little bit. And then what you're going to see enact is going to be people being like, okay, I'm going in a different direction, or I'm traveling, you know, you didn't give me a response, or you're not telling me what you want, so I'm making moves without you. Very Saturn kind of kicking in. This is the 3 of Swords, difficult card. It does talk about disappointment. It does talk about grief and loss. And I'm going to be honest, I think this is about having final moments where maybe it's like, you know, that something isn't working, or you know that something has to come to an end, right? Venus can be relationships. And it's about finally just having that conversation that's like, look, this isn't working. And I'm hoping that it can be in a productive manner, because the 3rd house can be about phone calls, text messages, emails. I could definitely see other people getting angry about the manner in which the conversation is handled, or some kind of conflict revolving around communication issues. Maybe somebody wants to have an important conversation, but, you know, they're not picking up the phone and talking to you about it. Or you know, maybe somebody's having a heart-to-heart conversation over text, and somebody gets triggered because they're like, well, why aren't you connecting with me personally, right? Taurus is in-person, physical. Anyway, distance can come up, and whether this is distance issues that's causing rifts in relationships, or you know, where people aren't able to come together and talk about things because there's been a little bit of like a distance that's been growing between the two of you. Sometimes addressing it, you know, head on and talking about it and just calling a spade is the thing to do. So that way you can have more clarity about whether or not, you know, something is going to be moving forward, or if you're going to have to start kind of making other plans. Unfortunately, the 3 of Swords does talk about healing and coming out of a situation. So I'm kind of wondering if you're on the different end of a perspective about something, or maybe you feel like somebody's putting something off or not communicating with you efficiently, or maybe somebody's not getting the response as fast as they'd like it. That's the other thing. Mercury and Mars can be very demanding about where you're going or what you're doing. So if you're like, you know what, we haven't been communicating very well, I don't like the way that you're treating me, I'm going to disappear, right? that might be how you're kind of handling things and dealing with some of your emotions during the time of the eclipse. Keep in mind, this is a card that's about pulling out the swords and healing from the heartbreak. So it might just be that it's just time to let somebody or something go, not feeling anguish about it anymore, finally embracing healing, or telling somebody that something has hurt you. So be really mindful of your words. Communication is so important around the time of this eclipse, and it can really be a make or break situation for you when it comes to a relationship. With that, I want to say thank you guys for listening. I know this was a long one. I would read you the Sabian symbol, but I've kept you for so long. But I will just remind you that the Sabian symbol specifically for this eclipse is going to be 6 degrees of Taurus. And if you guys remember, that was a bridge being built across a gorge, transcending limitation. The accent is on overcoming difficulties and finding solutions through partnerships and alliances. Bridge over troubled water, right? Finding ways to be able to bridge the gaps and things, working together with people, coming together. That's going to be what we're going to be trying to focus on at the time of this eclipse. Please leave me your comments, even after the eclipse if you want. Come back, let me know how it played out for you, how this resonated with you. Leave comments below or give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. It gives me feedback on these videos and helps me better kind of put these videos together in the future. If you guys like my work, you want to see more of it, click the subscription button below so you're alerted as to when I have videos coming out on the channel. Consider booking a personal reading with me on my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You guys can also donate to my channel or join memberships to help support me being a full-time content creator, going in deep, creating high quality astrology videos for you guys to help you better understand what's going on. Also consider joining memberships. You get a reading during one of my live readings every Friday. We do tarot and astrology. We will be doing another astrology before the eclipse. So this Friday we're going to be doing tarot, but next week it's going to be astrology. So you do have an opportunity to get in next week for some astrology readings. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. So enjoy the eclipse. I hope it's super beneficial for you guys, even in spite of some of the holy cow moments. And I will see you guys back here on Thursday. Until next time.